affirmative action, taking into account a geographical distribution countrywide.
Everybody will want to go to Alliance. Every Alliance has maybe 500 slots. Everybody will want to go to Kenya High with another 500 slots, maybe another 500 for Pangani and what have you. And yet we have close to 12,000 children with over 400. So we have to ensure that there's affirmative action which takes into account the geographical distribution of this country. And just to tell you that children from the northern region must also be represented in all areas of national schools. And in order to do that, God and the government has given us the powers to be fair.
Now let's switch gears to matters politics, and Deputy President William Ruto said the August 9th general election will bring to an end political conmanship in Kenya. He said for a long time some politicians have thrived on deceiving people, saying now Kenyans are informed and will be voting for a leadership with a development track record. The Deputy President was speaking during Kenya Kwanza rallies in Kitui and Machakos counties. Kirinyaga Governor Waiguru says she will not be intimidated by the state to stop supporting Deputy President William Ruto for presidency. Waiguru said she knows some state operatives are busy cooking up charges against her to force her out of the United Democratic Alliance. The governor exudes confidence that she will be re-elected for a second term overwhelmingly, saying the Jubilee administration is now using intimidation to instill fear on UDA aspirants. Governor Waiguru said state operatives using taxpayers' money to intimidate Mount Kenya region leaders supporting Deputy President William Ruto ought to be wiser. An investigating officer in the attempted rape case against Meru Senator Amelia Linturi says they are investigating the disappearance of evidence in the case. This after photos and videos in the possession of the complainant supporting a case were destroyed. In an affidavit filed in court, lead investigator Keith Robert said the Directorate of Criminal Investigations has reasons to believe that the senator had a hand in the loss of the evidence and wants him probed. Senator Linturi is facing charges of attempted rape, where it's alleged he entered the victim's hotel room while her husband was out and attempted to defile her. The investigator says they believe Senator Linturi could have played a key role in deleting the nude photos and videos that were to be used as evidence in the case and were in the custody of Nanyuki police station. He told the court that forensic analysis and reconstruction of the mobile phones is ongoing to retrieve the lost data. The photos and videos were taken by the victim and her husband at the Mayan Villas on the material day. Now, 3 people have been shot dead and 2 injured, while 6 others are missing after an early morning raid in Tanda area near Lemaiwe in Muchokoi ward. The 3, Timothy Kipsambu, Mariko Kipkemoi and John Mariska, were shot dead after they were ambushed during a morning patrol in the company of another 20 men. The injured 2, who were rushed to Baringo County Referral Hospital with gunshot wounds. Now, the youth in the country have been challenged to explore the digital space that is currently growing for the betterment of their lives. Speaking during the official launch of One Innovation Week in Mombasa, Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs Cabinet Secretary John Musharu told young people that the cyberspace has created immense opportunities for them to utilize and improve their livelihoods. Musharu said that the opportunities that came along with the new connectivity have opened Kenya to the world, making it among the competitive nations when it comes to advancement in technology. And Zimbabwe has begun repossessing idle land from black farmers who benefited from controversial land reforms 2 decades ago. Agriculture Minister Anxious Masuka said people whose farmland is lying unused and those who own multiple farms will lose land. The land will be given to aspiring farmers from a waiting list left from earlier rounds of land reform. Former President Robert Mugabe launched land reforms in 2000, forcibly removing white farmers and giving their land back to blacks. The scheme was supposed to redress legacies of British colonialism, but in practice, many of Mugabe's close allies ended up with multiple farms. But many new farmers had little knowledge, training or support, and vast swaths of land became derelict. Once renowned as a breadbasket, Zimbabwe now suffers from chronic food shortages, while 250,000 farmers are on the waiting list for land. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nyeri. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making his a living through hard work.
The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kano, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Mathare, presidential tour. And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the enemies says, hata wewe kuna jina kama yangu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
We are at Thursday. Let's see what it looks like on the streets this morning. Not much in terms of traffic. There's a bit of a drizzle in parts of the city today. And we've had a week of accidents, haven't we? From east to west. And it has not looked really pretty. And so we just need to take it easy this morning. It would be great if we could record a day without one this week. Coming off Langata Road looks pretty good. We're seeing traffic just starting to build up on Jogo Road today. Free and clear is what Uhuru Highway looks like all the way into the city. And then out into Westlands. Starting to build up here and there on the Thika Super Highway, which starts at around just after Maranga Road and then heading out in that direction. It's building up then just past the Outer Ring Junction. But apart from that, it really hasn't started to build up around the city. How about we take a look at things in about half hour or so and see how it is built up? Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room,
How
the
are you
only
doing?
way to start
Happy
your
Thursday,
day.
First Friday of the week. This is Kenya's biggest conversation indeed. It is the Situation Room. It's Eric and Ndu. CT. Ametulia kidogo leo. How you doing?
Fine, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back.
Asante sana. Yes. Did the thing that was to be done.
You did the Eric Latiff thing?
Yes.
I think you should be done with volume 1 by now.
Yeah, kinda. Not yet though.
Not yet. Volume 1 is still in the offing. So we will wait. We are patient people.
Yeah, subira huvuta heri. How are you?
I am fine, thank you.
How was your day yesterday?
It was good. Yes.
Did you have any new experiences, new things that you did that you don't normally do?
One could term those as fuss. It was an all right day.
It was an all right one. Enjoyed yourself?
I tried.
Good. Very good.
And you?
I had a good one.
So.
It was a productive one.
Good man.
Yes.
Karibuni sana.
Yeah, karibu kwa kipindi cha leo. Everybody, wherever you're tuned in on Spice FM or online, Spice FM KE, YouTube and Facebook, we are due to have some interesting conversations. So today is the BBI day. The Supreme Court will finish this millennium once and for all. Are we going into another an extra ballot in the forthcoming elections? And that will be a referendum question. Are we going to have 7 ballot papers on August 9th or not? That is what Justice Martha Koome's court will tell us today.
Indeed.
Yes. So to have that conversation, we'll have lawyer Dunstan Omari with us at 8 o'clock to basically look at, okay, so which way is this one likely to go? And not just that, because that will be highly speculative. It is looking at now, if it goes in any way that says okay to some elements of the BBI, so what happens
What
next?
would that mean, right?
And if it's the Supreme Court basically agrees with the 2 lower courts, what does that mean? Is that the actual death of that whole dream of the BBI? Or can they bring it up in another way? Would it be right? Would it be
Find its way
right to
back into the system?
Yeah, to start again, from a different angle? If you've gotten to a point where you've been told, look, the president cannot participate in a popular initiative. Number 2, there is the doctrine of of the Constitution? That thing.
The sanctity of the Constitution.
No. That thing that they're saying, there are some parts of the Constitution that cannot just be touched like that.
Oh, right.
That one, right?
I get it. I'm there with you.
Yes.
Right.
And there are parts of this Constitution that should be difficult to amend. The what basic structure? Yep. So, what are we likely to hear from the Supreme Court, and what would that mean to the Supreme Court? To the BBI conversation. That is what we are going to be discussing with Dunstan Omari at 8 o'clock. At 9, so the DRC is now a member of the East African Community. What does that mean? Yes, there's a population of 90 million that's now added into the community, becoming the largest trading bloc in Africa. What does that mean for the EAC? What does that mean for the people of the DRC? We'll be having somebody also to have that conversation with us this morning. His name is Edgar Odari. He is the executive director of an organization called Econews Africa. The impact of the DRC joining the EAC. Okay? On both sides, the DRC itself and the rest of the EAC countries.
Sure.
This and more. Keep it here for those conversations. Now, COVID.
All right. I thought... No. I thought yesterday, just reading over some, how the world is accepting or still ramping up measures when it then comes to COVID-19. I said, we've gotten to the point whereby on a daily basis, the stories remain the same. The information is more or less the same. Is it important that we continue talking about it? Absolutely. Because in the 21st century, this is the first time that the world has shut down because of a disease. It has not happened. And so is it important that we continue to look at then what happens at what most people would call the tail end of this pandemic? And I think absolutely it is necessary to look at the different things that different countries are doing and dealing with. Who would have thought that after China became the first country, quote unquote, with which COVID was found in, and then was able to manage it in the manner in which they were able to, come back 2.5 years later, and then now be the one that is saying, you know what? We are going to be more than careful as far as this is concerned. Who would have thought? People would have said, okay, you know what? The world is opening up. COVID is disappearing. We're seeing declining numbers. But the vigilance with which this country now is dealing with this, I think it goes to show that the threat is still very much alive in terms of what can happen with infections. Having said that, let's look at the numbers in Kenya. 7 new cases in the country from a sample size of 4,166, 0 recorded deaths. Again, a very low positivity rate of 0.2%. And, the call continues to be come out and get vaccinated. Still, the 4th of April is beckoning. If we don't have at least 1 million of those vaccines having been taken up, according to the Ministry of Health, they will be disposed of. So would have lost almost 2 million vaccines because of low uptake, and they've reached their shelf life. And so that...
And the government will blame it on the citizens.
Yes, but they've already done that. And they have said, look, We scrambled at the beginning because people were making noise. They said there are no vaccines available in the country. So we spoke with our development partners. We scrambled at the table. We got vaccines into the country. They've been coming. And then now people are not taking them. Now we're going to have to throw them away because they've reached the expiry date. What would you have them do? This is the question that came from the steps of Afia House just a week ago. So they're saying, you told us to bring, we brought. Now you guys are not coming to take them, then we have to throw them away. What does that do for our street cred? In terms of global conversations, and we can go back tomorrow and say we need more, but then we've seen you throwing them away.
So first of all,
publicly.
you go borrowing, buying everywhere in just in the begging bowl. So someone gives you what is about to expire in their own country. They're like, oh, this one's here, go. And then you come with them, and you only have 2 months. But in those 2 months, you are not making sufficient effort to actually get the people vaccinated. So you take them to one center and then you tell people to travel 40, 50 kilometers, 30, 40 kilometers
to
go get a vaccine. Come on.
So a vaccination, and this is the thing.
So realistic.
A vaccination program is a lot more than telling people that the vaccine is available. The
Yes.
program means that there must be adequate facilitation for your people to be able to get it. Why do it with others and then suddenly we're not able to do it with COVID? So, that's what it looks like. If we're looking at global numbers really quickly, 487 million is what we're looking at now. And then, still numbers on decline. But folks are saying it's possible for another variant of COVID to spread. The seasons are changing, especially in the Western Hemisphere. Going then from winter to spring. Spring is the invitation of hay fever. Again, another vehicle through which COVID can be passed. So, we don't know what's going to happen, but folks are being vigilant.
Let them be. It's 17 minutes after 6. Kenya's biggest conversation takes this quick break. Let's take a look at the weather forecast. Are you online? If you are, you know what to do. Say hello. We'll be doing our roll call shortly. Good morning.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making his a living through hard work.
The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kanu, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Madare, presidential tour. Yeah? And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the enemies says, hata wewe kuna jina kama yangu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
There's a drizzle in Nairobi at 15 degrees this morning. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of highs of 25 and lows of 15 today, and partly sunny conditions later on in the day. It's clear at 14 in Nakuru, 28 will be the high and lows of 13. We're looking at light rain in Nyeri at 14, highs of 24, 25 will be the high in Eldoret, where it's currently clear at 12. Partly cloudy conditions at 27 in Mombasa. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 25, while it's raining in Malindi at 26. It'll go to highs of 32 today. 20 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions in Kisumu. 29 will be the high and lows of 19. While Kakamega is cloudy at 16. It'll go to highs of 30 and lows of 15. It's raining in Kampala at 20. Highs of 28 and lows of 19. While cloudy conditions at 24 in Dar es Salaam. It'll go to highs of 32. We're looking at clear conditions at 16 in Johannesburg. 25 will be the high and lows of 13. While it's mostly clear at 28 in Lagos. It'll go to highs of 34 and lows of 28. We're looking at highs of 35 in Kinshasa, where it's clear at 24 this morning. All right, Beijing is reading 14 and sunny going into afternoon. We'll see highs of 15 and lows of -1, while it's mostly cloudy in Paris. Thunderstorms warnings are up. At 6 degrees, it'll go to highs of 8 and lows of 2. Mostly clear conditions in a chilly London this morning at 3. Highs of 7 and lows of 2. While it's still Wednesday night in New York, it's cloudy at 6. We'll see highs of 7 and lows of 5.
SpiceFM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It's 21 minutes after
Spice
6.
FM, Nairobi.
Muyendo says good morning. Collins is tuned in as well. Dennis says he's tuned in from Kapenguria, and Benson is tuned in as well. Stanley says, good morning, Team TSR. Huge, chaotic, and limited good road network. We welcome Congo to the EAC table. Well, all right. DRC, we must be sure we are saying it's DRC because there's some other Congos, right? Benson Mwasia says, good morning. He's tuned in from Nakuru. More University, specifically the main campus in Keses, Wasingishu. That's where Vincent Mambo is this morning. Lillian Odenge has taken her seat this morning and says, hello. MCR is live as usual. Sky says, hello, good morning. Dubai Kondani, and that's where Rundu is and listening in. Maureen Jola says, good morning, how are you? Tuned in from Kasarani. That's where George Mashuki is. What else are we looking at this morning? Molid says, good morning. Good to be in the room with you. Asante Sana, thanks for joining us. Abraham says he's tuned in as well. And Victor Siaya is tuned in from where?
Siaya.
County.
Karibu sana kila mutu. Okay, so City is not in today, so of course you know what he does. It's my job now to give the proverb.
And do you have to say?
Right. So this one is from Namibia. The greatest exports from Namibia,
Shine bright like a diamond.
diamonds, right?
Yeah.
25% of Namibia's exports are diamonds. So Namibians really know one or two things about diamonds. So the proverb, a diamond's father is coal, yet it regards itself as upper class. A diamond's father is coal, yet, as far as a diamond is concerned,
Aye.
it's upper class.
Toity.
And coal is dirty.
Coal is dirty.
Yeah.
It's not where I'm from, it's
No,
what
no,
I
no,
am.
no.
Excuse me.
Mm.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Just basically remind usituringia hapa. Tunajua
What goes
kwenu.
up will come down. We know where you are from.
We know where you come from. Maringo hapa ya pesa 8. www.standardmedia.co.ke. Get premium content online. For example, there's one. Balding, you can regain your hair. The medical procedure that's restoring luxuriance to depleted scalps.
What are those?
Sheesh, man. What the so premium content there. How can you actually grow back your hair? Yeah. And the promo for that is put, of course, alongside a story about Will Smith and Chris Rock and Jada Pinkett Smith.
Of course, how
Yes.
apt. Talk about
Sindio.
pointed advertising.
Sindio.
Ndio.
In the papers.
Quite a lot, of course, on the front page of the Standard. How the BBI verdict will shape August polls, and the Nation, interestingly enough, the uppercut. There are people within parties who are giving information about who said what where. But for now, the ruling will be out today, 31st. I believe that court resumes at 9 a.m. 7 judges hold the fate of the BBI in their hands. If they bring back reggae, this will energize Azimio presidential campaign. If they uphold the Court of Appeal verdict, Kenya Kwanza earns bragging rights. So, the issues at stake, whether the BBI process was legal, and if the 2010 constitution can be amended or is immutable. Number 2, if the president's participation rendered view push illegal, if he enjoys immunity and prosecution. If he enjoys immunity from prosecution. Number 3, if the IEBC had quorum when it approved the BBI bill and signatures before submitting the bill to the county assemblies. And 4, whether the court has powers to intervene in a referendum when IEBC has verified voter signatures. It's carried on page 6 and 7. So these are the things. Remember, the court initially said, you know what, this thing, unconstitutional, put it to bed. Of course, the proponents went and said, wait a minute, let's look at this again. So many folks are asking, so what happens today? So the Court of Appeal will basically say whether the Supreme Court will tell us whether the initial ruling stands or it is now
they
mooted
disagree
and we go back
on some matters.
on some
those
matters.
rulings. Yes.
Right?
Ati Kenya Kwanza are likely to take bragging rights should the Supreme Court agree with the lower courts.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're running
Kenya
the race.
Kwanza have never said no to BBI.
This is the thing. And this is, you know what it is? Typical example of you didn't run the race, but there was a race.
Yeah.
You didn't run the race.
But because you were not
you were in the
openly
bleachers,
cheering,
the other side, by virtue of that, you were in the race with the other guy. Maybe you passed him as
if
he
you
was
were
going
not
to the
cheering
locker
Usain
room.
Bolt, then you were with Tyson Gay.
Goes without saying.
But you were not cheering Tyson Gay.
No, but now Usain Bolt lost and Tyson Gay wins. I'm
So you're like,
suddenly
hey, you
support-
see?
He's our guy. Do you see? Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
This one is going to be an interesting one. Let's wait and see what the Supreme Court says. If they basically allow some parts of that, I think there's a likelihood of getting that referendum question as a seventh ballot. If some parts of it are told, all right, so you can amend the, basic structure of this constitution, number one. Number two, well, the president, it's not a big deal. If he, And most importantly, IEBC was properly constituted when it was passing this to the county assemblies. Because that means that the process of county assemblies was okay. So if it was approved by the county assemblies, approved by the National Assembly and the Senate, then it goes to the referendum.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
They may say that, well, you cannot amend the basic structure of the Constitution, but then there are other elements of the Constitution. They may just say, okay, so let's talk about the others.
The other elements.
Yeah.
After all, a piece of pie,
Yeah.
whether it's still pie.
Hey, that one. It's going to be a big one.
Yep.
It's going to be a big one.
It is.
Let me tell you a story.
Here we go.
There's an inmate who is in jail. Okay? She's an inmate. Her name is Amelia Jacobeth Liabule. Amelia Jacobeth Liabule.
Okay.
She sat KCPE. She emerged the top prison KCPE candidate in this election. This exam, by scoring 402 marks. Big achievement for somebody who's behind bars.
Right.
So people went and found out, and they spoke to journalists, and a journalist went and spoke to her, and she said, before I got to prison, I had dropped out of Iregi Girls High School in Form 3. I went to Iregi Girls, I got to Form 3, I dropped out. I just decided, let me do this exam again, KCPE. Okay? And there was a big story, and there was, celebration by the prison warders, and the prison department itself was, saying, we've produced. Yeah, that means that we're giving them a conducive environment for them to be able to sit an exam and pass. It emerges that Miss Amelia Jacobeth Liabule has a degree from Egerton University and had enrolled for a master's degree before she went to prison. She's in Kakamega GK's prison. She is a graduate of Egerton University and had enrolled for a master's when she was arrested and charged with killing her mother. Julius Joan, the Early Learning and Basic Education Principal Secretary, says, we are going to review all the documents before we can have a comment on this. The Standard visited Liabule's rural Shisend village in Ikolomani sub-county yesterday, and they gathered evidence that she was a student at the university in 2009. Liabule's industrial attachment logbook that has been seen by the Standard's Robert Amalemba, who's written this story, shows that she pursued an environmental sciences degree at Egerton University. Her admission number was N12-5100-09 as captured in the attachment logbook. The Standard saw photos of Liabule in uniform at Eregi Girls High School, where she had been a student. Now the sister, Tabitha Indoshi, is wondering, surely, Jacobeth, why are you lying? My younger sister graduated with a degree in environmental sciences from Egerton University in 2013. Miss Indoshi says she did not attend the graduation ceremony herself, but most of the family members did. And after Miss Liabule was done with the first degree, she enrolled for a second degree at KU. Kevin Salamba, an alumni of the university, says he welcomed her at the university, Egerton, when she joined in 2009. I remember welcoming her as a fresher when I was in third year. We were in the same primary school and I had to show her the ropes. She should speak the truth about her education. Doreen Anabaka, the Kakamega Women's Prison in charge, said she was surprised by the revelation that Liabule was pursuing a master's degree. Oh my word.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, so there are issues here. First of all, many would say, okay, in those circumstances, she did really well in the exam, right? So many will say, well, okay, come on. She'll probably be able to do the exam with her eyes closed. She was a master's candidate, for crying out loud. But then what is it with folks lying about their ages in order to prove what to people? There was a gentleman who was how old? And he went and sat and re-registered for Standard 7. Meanwhile, he was a graduate of what, from which university? Just a week or so ago, we read the same story. What is it? So that's the thing. You're trying to prove your academic might by sitting an exam which you probably did 10, 12 years ago to show people that, here I am behind bars and I can do the thing.
In this particular case, I'm thinking, you see the thing that you said there earlier? Street cred? Scoring. Yeah. You score what? What did she get?
402.
402 marks.
And you probably didn't read anything.
In prison.
Yeah.
Now every prison warder is looking at you like, what? Hata mimi sikupata kitu kama na sikuwa jela. So you start getting, respect from already the in charge. Looks at you, hey, treat this one nicely. In fact, let's make her the head girl of whatever. Yeah?
Head girl of this
of the prison. Right? So she gets top layer, she gets her own cubicle, she gets, preferential treatment. The other prison warders will now be coming to her for advice on what do they need to do with life. The other prisoners are looking at her like, wow, this one, if she tells us something, she's sharp, she's in high school, and we cannot really disturb her. Kumbe, someone graduated.
He's a master's candidate.
With a Bachelor of Science degree. Okay?
She has tried, Sha.
And then she says, but she's in prison because she murdered her mother.
Good Lord.
Yes. That's the beat of the story that you missed.
What?
Yeah. She's in prison because she murdered her mother.
Yeah, me. Okay. The sister is even shocked. Why are you lying?
Yeah. Like, huyu ni nini mbaya?
Kuna shida ingine. Yeah.
26 minutes to 7. Wow. Time for another quick break. Let's take a look at the traffic.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
SpiceFM is taking you and 4 of your friends to the movies courtesy of everyone's favorite delicious fruit-flavored soda, Fanta and Anga Cinema. All you have to do to win movie tickets for your squad to an exclusive pre-screening of The Batman is to brush up on your Batman movie trivia and join me, Yolanda, and DJ Absolute on Sugar and Spice every weekday from 11 a.m. for your chance at a front row seat to witness cinema history.
Okay, still not too much of a traffic issue this morning. It's building up on Mombasa Road, but, normal pickings for this time of the morning. We're also looking at it on Jogo Road, a little bit building up on Langata Road, and then coming off Gong Road as well, a little bit here and there. Where we'll see the most traffic this morning is on the Thika Superhighway, going just past the Utali Drift, but nothing too major. Oh, Juja Road is also shaping up this morning with some traffic, and it's in and outbound as you're heading out then towards Muranga Road this morning. Outer Ring doesn't look too bad. It'll take you to the thicker superhighway through the back. And Kiambu Road also a little bit here and there. Likely to see more action closer to 7 o'clock. Let's keep an eye on things. Let us know what's happening where you are. Let's keep it accident-free this morning, shall we? Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done
24
right.
to 7.
94.4
So,
Spice FM.
governors, the county bosses, have warned the CS about risks of delayed funding. They've said, you know what, we've been taking this thing from you, but now let's just tell you, if you don't, there could be a big problem.
Wallahi. This time.
Subhanallah. Counties are staring at muted economic activities following delays in treasury disbursement that have disrupted their finances. They learned that they are owed about 60 billion in equitable share. Of that amount, 8.2 billion is owed to 11 counties for the what? Try and take a guess which month we are talking about.
December.
Okay, you're close. January. The affected counties are Baringo, Kwale, Lamu, Migori, Nairobi, Nakuru, Samburu, Tana River, Turkana, Uasin Gishu, and West Pokot. Some 31 counties are owed 22.1 billion in allocations for February, while all the counties are yet to receive their March share of 29.6 billion. This means that counties are unable to pay for drugs, water and electricity, and run development projects in critical areas such as improving maternal health care, building and maintaining roads, sponsoring youth empowerment projects, and funding construction of polytechnics and early childhood. So in other words, we cannot do anything. So you go to hospital, there will be no drugs because county has not been able to buy from the supplier KEMSA. Then you see that whole back and forth nonsense. You will not be able to maintain things that you should within the county. You will not be able to pay your overheads. You will not be able to sort out your stuff. Basically, you're crippled.
You're done.
January, February, March is over. Nothing has come through. So, suppliers and contractors, another one. Remember that thing of pending bills?
Yes.
They've also not been paid and they continue to pile up because the work doesn't stop. County boss will tell you, it's okay, we are expecting money. You just continue working. We'll pay you. Nothing. Now, by law, counties are entitled to at least 15% of the government's audited revenues. The law provides for timely disbursement of the equitable share of revenue generated by the national government. The 2012 Public Finance Act mandates the National Treasury to disburse money to the units at the beginning of every month and not later than the 15th day of the start of the fiscal quarter. So beginning of the month. So let's say beginning. Okay, let's give them beginning until 5th. That has not happened, at least for the last 3 months. All right. It emphasizes that disbursement be made in accordance with the schedule prepared by Treasury in consultation with the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council, IBEC. The Council of Governors. Now, you see, we've laid the ground. Now, they said, see, this is the way it has been. This is what has been going on. Now, this is what the law says. Now, this is what we are telling you. They're contemplating legal redress. We will take you to court. They're saying this delayed disbursement is hurting county services, which is obvious. The COG chairman, Martin Wambora, said that though the current fiscal year will end in 3 months, the Treasury has only disbursed 154 billion of the total allocation of 370 billion, translating into 58% of this year's total allocation to the counties. Wambora, who is the governor of Embu, said cash-strapped counties are struggling to stay afloat and ensure critical services are not affected. Some counties have been served with strike notices by health workers. For instance, in Kirinyaga last week, workers had not yet... In Kirinyaga, workers had not gotten their pay for the last 2 months. They say they are struggling to pay their bills, which is obvious. Mr. Wambora said in a letter to the Cabinet Secretary, Ukuri Atani, the delay in disbursements has greatly prejudiced delivery of services in the county. Laikipia Governor Ndiritu Mureithi said delayed disbursement meant pending bills will continue to accumulate. He urged Treasury to develop innovative ways of releasing cash, warning that further delays would slow down economic activity. And they're saying that this is undermining devolution.
It's not the first time that they've said this. It's not going to be the last time that they're saying this. We need a reset of something. Somewhere we need to rethink this whole thing.
I still don't know what for me, and it could be simplistic in terms of view, but I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense. There's an agreement. We're looking at an annual 370 billion. We're 3 months to the end of the year. You've only given out 58%. How do you... Okay, let's not even ask about...
The government is broke.
Let's not ask about your expectations. You have not delivered to county in order for them to do their job. No. The government is not broke.
The government
Are you not the one who was here shouting
broke.
the other day about supplemental budget?
Yes.
And where is that money going to come from?
The
your
government
counties
is
are broke.
cash broke. This is it. And the fact that, the Council of Governors have talked about this very many times, the Senate has not. The fact that, in fact, our National Assembly and Senate are just keeping quiet as these things happen is a sad bit. Because in addition to the issue of counties not receiving their disbursements on time, we are now seeing that whole thing we call a fuel subsidy. The government does not have money for the fuel subsidy.
Until oil marketers cannot even be paid.
So oil marketers are not being paid, and this is leading to fuel shortages across the country.
And hoarding.
Because what's happening is that the oil marketers, the big brands that have the fuel, are not selling to the smaller petrol stations. These are the smaller petrol stations are the ones that are found in the mashinani. It is affecting supply of fuel. Is there fuel in the country? Yes. Mafuta iko kwa pump na kwa depot. But the big guys, they have not been paid, so they're not going to sell. Unless you give me cash. I'm not giving you this mafuta. And I don't want to sell because the government has not given them the money for the margins.
Surely.
The story is here. Price hikes witnessed as fuel shortage persists in the North Rift. Despite the assurances, pumps continue to run dry in this region, critical in food production. The disruption is coming at a time when farmers have started planting. In Iten, Elgeyo Marakwet, motorists were forced to look for fuel in Eldoret town, which is 34 kilometers away. Drive 34 kilometers to go and look for fuel. Drive back 34 kilometers.
You have used the fuel.
The two major fuel stations in the town were empty by Tuesday morning after receiving limited stock on Monday night. Some motorists who had run out of fuel were forced to abandon their vehicles to look for it in jerrycans. Hilary Kemboi, a driver with Transvalley who operates on the Iten-Eldoret route, said fuel shortage in Iten town has slowed the ferrying of passengers to LD. Spot check in Eldoret fueling stations found most stations had diesel but not fuel. Few stations run by multinational oil companies in Eldoret town were full of motorists for the better part of Tuesday. This is a big issue. And it basically means that the government does not have the money to call fuel subsidy. Remember, already in the last review on the 15th of this month, IPRA did not apply the 100% fuel subsidy.
No, they didn't.
And now we are seeing this. It means that it's highly likely that in the next month, there'll be no subsidy at all. The governor of Central Bank, I'm looking for that story because it's related, has already warned us to brace ourselves because things are going to be tough. Kenyans should brace for tough times ahead after CBK Governor Patrick Njoroge hinted that the fuel subsidy program might be cut. Speaking at a press briefing yesterday, Dr. Njoroge said he expects the subsidy, which has shielded motorists from spikes in the price of petroleum products, to stay with the government picking up a significant burden. But I think more importantly, he said, it may not be 100%. There may be some sort of adjustments. This means that Kenyans will soon be paying even more for fuel, with a litre of petrol currently retailing at 131.63 in Nairobi, even as fuel shortages being witnessed in some parts of the country. So even if the government says, all right, so the subsidy, we're just going to put about a 20% subsidy, That 20% they don't have.
Okay. So can you see something happening here? Yesterday, we discussed this food shortage, food insecurity issue, which all bounced from the story that came from the Ministry of Agriculture that they did not have the 31 billion to then subsidize fertilizer for farmers. So essentially what is going to happen is that then farmers will not be able to get the crop yield that they normally would because the soils are of a lower quality and they needed fertilizer to be able to boost this. They cannot afford to buy fertilizer at the price that it's currently being sold for and then still make anything. So they depend on government to be able to subsidize that fertilizer so they can then buy. 31 billion needed, Munya has told us, we don't have. Counties need money. Ukuri has said it is coming. I don't know when. There is nothing. Oil marketers, they're supposed to at least try and make 1-2 shillings on each liter of fuel because of this equalization that government would then be able to do. The fund has no money. What's going on here? You're not able to run the country because there are no funds. The debt burden is through the roof. Do you see something happening?
Yep.
The country is not running because there is no money and nothing is being done. At what point is it going to get to? It's going to start affecting everything else. We've already been told here, counties are saying, well, you know what? We can't pay the bills. We can't buy drugs. So you will go to hospital. You will not get medicine, even if you have money in your pocket. You will not get medicine because county cannot pay KEMSA to get funds in. They already owe. They've not paid. We can't turn on the taps. We can't turn on the lights. We can't run the county. We cannot pay our people. You cannot buy input for your farmers. You can't run the country. What are you doing?
You think all those things can happen and you still can feed the poor?
Then people have... Now, when all these things are going on and then we are saying in the North Rift we have a serious insecurity issue, do you think they'll pay attention? There's drought. Some 23 counties being affected.
People need food today.
People need food. The drought-stricken areas still till today. 23 counties being affected. They need food. Do you think those things then will be given attention?
Jamii funds will not be sent.
In 5 short weeks, schools will open yet again and they will need their money sent from Treasury to the Ministry of Education so that it can then be disbursed. Do you see this spiraling that we are just looking at happening before our eyes like a movie? Do you see?
They're playing. I think just like the Okoh Uchumi campaign is saying, Ukuri Yatani has very many questions to answer. Very many questions to answer. But they go even beyond Ukuri Yatani. The president has very many questions to answer.
Where's the money?
Because this is... How are we running? So we can still see that, there are some projects that were started that are ongoing, but then the basics for people. If you cannot afford, we have seen prices of basic commodities going through the roof. Now we have a subsidy in place, and this subsidy is not at the government. It is few people have paid a levy for this subsidy. It's not that the government is getting money. No. Every time every liter of fuel consumed in this country,
it goes into that. So then?
And then the money was diverted.
Exactly. This is the thing. And that, you see, that's the thing, Eric. That's the question that must be asked. Where is the money? Why has it been diverted? To what has it been diverted? And was it a priority? To what has it been diverted?
You wait, there'll be
to paying of loans, for example.
We'll print an extra ballot paper, and you'll go into the next election, and you'll be asked to vote yes or no. And there will be campaigns. And because this is a big campaign, there'll be extra money now being used, to campaign and do civic education, create awareness about BBI, so that people can say yes or no to the BBI.
It's pretending like everything is okay and it's not. It's the lady who has not bathed for a month, but then puts powder and lipstick on her face, and you think that it looks good. Just wipe off the powder. What will you find?
Don't stand close to her. You'll find out. It's 11 minutes to 7.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media
has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
What else?
So it's interesting because the controller of budget, I mean, still looking at these stories, right?
Yeah.
Now wants counties to improve on supervision, monitoring, and evaluation of projects to ensure value for public funds. So the question is, which funds are we talking about? This is after an audit of programs and projects implemented in the 2018-2019 and 2019-2020 financial years revealed some were of poor quality due to poor workmanship. In her budget implementation report for the first half of 2021-2022, Dr. Margaret Nyakango says some of the evaluated projects were either badly implemented, abandoned, non-existent, or duplicated, denying the public value for money. Among the cross-cutting issues noted during the exercise were ineffective supervision of projects resulting in poor quality during the implementation phase, poor record management practices as evidenced by failure to submit project files, and delays in the development of an updated valuation role to enhance revenue collection from rateable properties. So, even when you do get the public funds, poor quality of work is not being done right. And, you know, if we are going to continue giving you money, essentially, we need to make sure that quality then is being delivered, but that's not happening. And it's across board.
It's just a criminal enterprise.
Wallahi. Everywhere you look.
Criminal enterprise. So the little available money that's there, people are just conniving on how they're going to eat.
And not even bothering to do a commendable job.
Why? No.
Once the money is in your pocket, it's okay.
Eat the money. If the money that you have cannot solve the problems that you have, eat that money. Eat that money. This is... We need to have a national conversation about this.
Honestly.
Prudent financial management. I mean, we are at a point where the PFM Act has just been bastardized. Totally. So we have all these checks and balances and checks in place, but we just do not end up checking them. Are we collecting money? We are collecting close to 2 trillion shillings in terms of tax revenues. And then paying almost half of it, more than half of it as debt. The rest of the money that we get, we are just playing around with it. Sometimes it just gets...
It's irritating. That already the chips are down, right? You're already on your knees. So you say, the little bit of a lifeline that you have, okay, so you just try. Yeah. Can you just even try and do some... Is it too much to ask? Yeah. And, you know, I sometimes have these conversations and I say, you know, in my head, I say, Ndu, let's talk about this thing. But why do you get upset? And I think that's the problem. Because people don't get upset enough about these things and the way in which they're happening. So that's why things can just fly by. What are we talking about? The little that you have, you can't do it right. To whom will you hold yourself accountable?
Now, Medical Linturi. If Medical Linturi is not in a campaign rally, he's in court. For one thing or the other. So this particular one, remember the story of Senator Medical Linturi being at Mayan Villas in Nanyuki, Laikipia County sometime in January. And then there was this accusation that he had attempted to enter into a sexual relationship with a woman without her consent.
Okay.
And this was in January last year. Mithika Linturi denied the 3 a.m. incident alleged to have happened in Laikipia County. The court was told of the rape complaint lodged by the married woman who accused him of slipping into her hotel bed in the night. The senator said is said to have recorded his version of the story. Now, the person who is investigating this particular case, lead investigator Keith Robert from the DCI, says the evidence in this particular case has been deleted. And now they've launched a fresh investigation to find out who deleted the evidence. And they're saying, we think Linturi is involved in this. Deleting the evidence that's in the custody of the DCI, which has then gone to the ODPP.
From the system.
Oh, yes.
Digital information.
According to the senator, the police have failed to give him evidence and documents that they'll rely on in the case. The officer is called Keith Roberts, the DCI officer, says the senator might have a hand in the deletion of the indecent photos and video footage that formed part of the evidence. We are conducting further investigations into an offense of destroying evidence in respect to the photographs and videos alluded to. I have reason to believe the accused person played a role in their deletion.
What reason?
He has reason to believe. He's the one to gain if the evidence is not adduced.
They realized that the evidence was missing when what?
See, when they were looking for it as they were going to court.
When
See,
they were going to court is when they realized evidence was missing.
Yeah. They went to the ODPP. The ODPP looked and reviewed the file. The ODPP said, Sawa, let's go to court. So the ODPP opened the case against the senator. Now, during this particular time, so after this has happened, what happens is you're supposed to give the defendant your evidence that you're going to use so they can prepare the defense.
True, right.
Now, the lawyer, Mudomi Thiankolu, who is Linturi's lawyer, says, we have not been given evidence. Where is this evidence? Lead investigator comes, we don't have the evidence. Why? It was deleted. We're trying to find out who deleted this evidence.
You think they will?
See, they'll find out who deleted it.
Who deleted?
They have reason to believe it is Mithika Linturi who deleted the evidence.
If they find out who deleted the evidence, does it then somehow bring the evidence back?
See, now they'll charge him now with deleting evidence. If they actually can prove that he deleted the evidence that's in their custody. And these are photos and videos.
And they need them in order to prove their case.
Yes.
I've heard you.
And the senator is saying, come on, you see, all these guys.
People are wasting my time yet again.
These are all political cases in nature.
And you did the same thing to me with the supposed hate speech.
Yep.
With the supposed hate speech, wasting my time, put me behind bars.
Yep.
You have compromised my reputation. Now here you are again, and then you're coming to tell us that evidence has been disappeared. And then you're blaming me again.
And then you're blaming me.
No, you guys, even you're on a long thing. Man.
The DPP is saying Linturi is illegally asking the court to investigate whether there was enough evidence to charge him. The DPP says it's for Linturi to tell the court whether he slipped into a married woman's bed or not.
Why is it disturbing us? It's just you who's supposed to.
You coming at no, you go and say, did you sleep into a married woman's bed or not?
Now you're disturbing us about evidence. Just say. Oh no.
There's always something
it's not
funny.
One thing, it's another.
It's always something. Something. Julia says, we can't make monthly loan repayments. KRA is exceeding its target in tax collection. And the truth be told, all we can see of that and the 1.3 trillion shillings is the SGR, which cost 555 billion. Even as damn as I am, I can smell a rotten rat.
Where?
Yeah. This is Kenya, Julia. Welcome. Happy first Friday. It's the last day of March 2022. The president has not opened the expressway, but it's almost complete.
But it's
We're on course.
We're still in March. 16, 17 hours. Miracles can happen.
Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. All eyes are now on the Supreme Court, where 7 judges led by Chief Justice Martha Koome are expected to give their verdict on the BBI, which was dismissed by the Court of Appeal on August 25th last year after being declared unconstitutional. CJ Martha Koome will be accompanied by Deputy CJ Philomena Mwilu, Supreme Court judges Mohammed Ibrahim, Smoky Wanjala, and Joaquin Dumu, and Isaac Lenaola. An appeal against the Court of Appeal's verdict on the BBI, the Supreme Court, was filed by the electoral agency IEBC, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Attorney General Kihara Kariuki. The Attorney General focused objects the decision on the basic structure and the steps that should be taken to amend the Constitution after the Court of Appeal ruled that the Kenyan Constitution had a fundamental basic structure and insisted that the reform process was different from those listed in the Constitution. Lawyers from the AG's office, in conjunction with President Kenyatta's lawyers, opposed the decision that the President could not institute the exercise of amending the Constitution and further opposed the decision that the head of state could be prosecuted. Meanwhile, the IEBC wants the court to find fault with the decision that it lacked quorum to make some key decisions surrounding the BBI process. IEBC lawyer Professor Githu Muigai highlights the risk that comes with the decision, arguing that it would affect the Commission's previous activities. Newswire and Standard Media Group will be camping at the Supreme Court building as we bring you the latest from the courts. Now, candidates who sat this year's Kenya's Certificate of Primary Education examinations have been assured of integrity in the Form 1 placement when the process begins in 2 weeks' time. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha said the process will see all learners who did their KCPE in 2021 placed in national, extra-county, county and sub-county host schools. Magoha also announced that the selection criteria will be based on affirmative action, taking into account geographical distribution countrywide.
Everybody will want to go to Alliance. Every Alliance has maybe 500 slots. Everybody will want to go to Kenya High with another 500 slots, maybe another 500 for Pangani and what have you. And yet we have close to 12,000 children with over 400. So we have to ensure that there's affirmative action which takes into account the geographical distribution of this country. And just to tell you that children from the northern region must also be represented in all areas of national schools. And in order to do that, God and the government has given us the powers to be fair.
Tumultuous politics, and Deputy President William Ruto said the August 9th general election will bring to an end political conmanship in Kenya. He said for a long time, some politicians have thrived on deceiving people, saying now Kenyans are informed and will be voting for a leadership with a development track record. The Deputy President was speaking during Kenya Kwanza rallies in Kitui and Machakos counties. Now, Kirinyaga Governor Waiguru says she will not be intimidated by the state to stop supporting Deputy President William Ruto for presidency. Waiguru said she knows some state operatives are busy cooking charges against her to force her out of the United Democratic Alliance. The governor exudes confidence that she will be re-elected for a second term overwhelmingly, saying the Jubilee administration is now using intimidation to instill fear on UDA aspirants. Governor Waiguru said state operatives are using taxpayers' money to intimidate Mount Kenya region leaders' support for Deputy President William Ruto, and that they should be wiser. Now, an investigating officer in the attempted rape case against Meru Senator Amelia Linturi says they are investigating the disappearance of evidence in the case. This after photos and videos in possession of the complainant supporting her case were destroyed. In an affidavit filed in court, lead investigator Keith Robert said the Directorate of Criminal Investigations has reasons to believe that the senator had a hand in the loss of the evidence and wants him probed. Senator Linturi is facing charges of attempted rape, where it is alleged that he entered the victim's hotel hotel room while her husband was out and attempted to defile her. The investigator says they believe Senator Linturi could have played a key role in deleting the photos and videos that were to be used as evidence in the case and were in the custody of Nanyuki police station. He told the court that forensic analysis and reconstruction of the mobile phones is ongoing to retrieve the lost data. The photos and videos were taken by the victim and her husband at the Mayan Villas on the material day. And finally, 3 people have been shot dead and 2 injured while 6 others are missing after a raid in Tanda area near Lemaiwe in Muchogoi ward. The 3, Timothy Kipsambu, Mariko Kipkemoi and John Mariska, were shot dead after they were ambushed during a morning patrol in the company of another 20 men. The injured, who were rushed to Baringo County Referral Hospital, had gunshot wounds. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
SpiceFM. Nakuru.
All right, getting closer and closer to the traffic hour, and on Mombasa Road today is a lot of action here. We're looking at outbound traffic around the Maradima. It's really heavy. Not to forget that there's a certain part of, so you're asking, so you're ahead, what's going on? All right, certain part of the road closed off because the final toll station's been worked on there. And so the road is narrower than it normally would be. And so we have a lot of outbound traffic then building up there. Let's also look at what's coming in from the Way Bridge, heading out towards the SGR and then to Cabanas, out towards North Airport Road, a little bit of traffic here and there. So that whole turn-off that goes towards Embakasi and then out towards the outer ring, also clogged up and moving slowly this morning. All right, it's building up on Langata Road and Uhuru Highway as well. Pretty heavy on the Thika Superhighway, and that's moving very slowly, bumper to bumper in many parts today. All right, guys. Unfortunately, there's been another accident this morning. This is in Mombasa, and this has taken place going out into the city, and so it's going to slow down considerably in terms of traffic. Watch out for that and give you more details as we go along. Let's talk. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This
7:07
is the
on the
Situation
31st day of
the
March
only
2022. Welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. Happy first Friday of the week. Happy last day of March. Tomorrow is April. And just like that, we're in the second quarter of the year.
Yep.
Just like that.
Quarter 1 is done.
Done.
What have
Dusted.
you done?
Oh, results for Q1. So you had this whole thing called what? Vision board. And the other thing called what? New Year resolutions.
Yes.
So,
New Year resolutions.
Account for Q1. How are you doing in terms of Q1? Well, all the best with that. Today's proverb. It's only Eric and Ndu today. City is away.
Okay. Let's call
He's
it
taking a day off. He wants to chill with the big boys. A diamond's father is coal, yet it regards itself as upper class. This is a proverb from Namibia. Remember, Namibia's big export, diamonds. So they know one thing or two about diamonds. They say a diamond's father is coal, yet it regards itself as upper class. Diamond, that is. It looks at coal and thinks, you're so black.
You can't shine.
Can't shine. Me.
I'm the one.
Yeah.
You forgot where you've come from.
Yes. It's who you are now. Forget about auntie. Uchaf. No, not me. Not at all.
Yeah.
Page 10 of the Standard today says there's a Form 1 headache for parents. With KCPE results for more than 1.2 million candidates released, focus now turns on Form 1 selection. Parents are expressing fear that their children may not get slots in their preferred institutions, as it happened last time when too many pupils selected the top schools. If a child selects to join a national school and instead they're sent to an institution that perhaps was not on their list, it gets demoralizing. This is according to the Kenya National Parents Association chairman, Nicholas Mayo. Education CS George Muga has said selection will start in 2 weeks' time. Candidates are placed in secondary schools based on their performance, their school choices, and we have to include affirmative action. Before the exam, pupils choose 4 national schools, 3 extra county schools, 2 county schools, and 1 sub-county institution. Then what happens? So, private schools are calling for fairness. Remember last year they were making noise and saying, look, our children have performed so well, yet we are not getting preferential treatment when it comes to Form 1 selection. We want that thing to be different this year, that's what he says.
Yep.
Ndoro says private secondary schools also have capacity. In fact, stop looking at just picking students and sending them to the public schools, yet we have investors who have invested in secondary schools. Allow children to also come to the secondary schools, private. They have 132,000 capacity, and Ndoro says they can increase this capacity if they're required to. What do you want, 200,000? We can just put up. We can do that. Over the years, only candidates who score 400 marks and above are guaranteed slots in national schools. What is our capacity for national schools? 103 national schools with a 30,000 space capacity. How many national schools? 103 national schools, their capacity, 30,000 students.
Their combined capacity?
Combined capacity.
Wow.
For the 103 national schools is 30,000. 11,857 students scored 400 and above. So those ones are guaranteed to enter national school.
So you're left with about 19,000, 18,000.
Some 18,000 extra slots. Higher. When it comes to those that scored between 300 and 399, 315,000 scored between 300 and 399. And they're expected to scramble for some slots in those national schools and, of course, into the extra county schools. Yep. The 531 extra county schools can accommodate 123,399 learners. Another 142,358 slots will be available in the 1,031 county and 685,000 slots in the 7,325 sub-county institutions. We have capacity to accommodate all these 1.2 million, basically, if you just look at it. Now, the problem is the school that you selected. Yes, you've performed very well. You've scored 402 marks from Kakamega GK prison. And your name is Amelia Jacobeth Liabule. And you selected Alliance Girls.
Yeah.
Okay?
You'll be given.
Now, they come into selections. How many people had selected Alliance Girls?
Yes.
With your 402, how many people who had scored more than you had selected Alliance Girls?
So, go ahead.
Senior. Now, those, if you have many people who had selected Alliance and they scored more than you, then obviously you go falling down. So you go into your second choice. Second, how many had selected, how many had... So it goes like that because it's a system that just selects you. Now, the problem here, as Mayo is saying, I mean, I have scored over 400 and my top school was Alliance Girls.
Why can't I go there?
Why can't I go to Alliance Girls? Then I'm sent due to some national school. I'm told it's a national school. It's somewhere I don't know where. Never heard of this school. That's where the problem is. There are 103 national schools. How many can you name? We only talk about the ones that were previously national schools.
Exactly.
We talk about the alliances, the mangus. Those are the ones that people know.
So there's a capacity problem. I mean, okay.
No?
The 103 around the country. They're
with a 30,000 capacity.
It is not enough to accommodate everybody who is coming into the system and that has the grades to do it.
It is enough. It's more than enough. Remember, there's only 11,000 who scored 400 and above.
Okay, and to get into so basically, because what you're being told here, Eric, is that unless you have scored 400, you can't go to a national school.
No, they get first priority.
Oh, they get first.
Okay, so once those 11,000 go into the national schools,
and the 18,000,
then the other 18,000 now we look into 399. So 399. So we have a 399 who scored very well, and they had also selected this as their first school, and this particular school is not full, so you get there. Now here's a challenge. I think now the challenge starts coming into those 399, 380s. Because 399, 380, you're looking and you've passed very well. And now you're being called into a national school. But this national school had not had many people choosing it. That's why it has more space. Alliance and Mangus will have high competition. Because many people, out of the million, many people had selected Alliance and Mangu.
Sure.
Out of the 11,000, many people had selected Alliance and Mangu. So Alliance and Mangu will get very full very fast.
Very fast.
And then now you go into the other national schools that you've never heard of somewhere. And that's why you're called. And you're like,
So
it is not I got 399.
So it's not as though there is not enough space. Space is not the issue. But it is the desires of parents to take the students to a particular school.
Yes.
And some of these other schools then are not being put in the limelight in terms of what they can offer.
Yes.
And so there's a scramble for certain schools. So then maybe the conversation then should shift to say, why is this attention only being given to these schools? Is it because of the previous reputation?
Yep.
Why can't we then see other schools then coming up? Then you will not have this problem that you're having. Because this thing that we're talking about now, 2 weeks to selection, the lobbying started a year ago. The lobbying started a year ago for folks to get their kids into these schools.
Yep.
And you'll find that of the 103, just like you said, you're probably only able to name 8 or 9. You don't know where the rest of them are.
It's in national schools.
National schools. Where are they?
This is a school. In fact, watch it being a national school. This is a school.
This is where? This is where. There are 103 national schools, all of them worthy of the calling of having students who have scored 400 marks and above coming there as first priority.
Yep.
They're all worthy. If you put them on the same line as the alliances and the mangus that we're talking about shouting every day, they're all at par. They're all able to receive students who have done this good work.
Yep.
National schools by public acclamation. So the question is, why then are the rest of them not getting this pomp and circumstance that these other ones are getting? Why?
Because first of all,
scramble, because he said, we heard the news clip, Magoha this morning, you only have 500 slots in X school. You only have 500 slots, but you have some 11,000 people, and all of them seem to be wanting to get into those 500.
You know, we're looking at the modern day parent. The modern day parent knows what they knew as national schools when they were in school. There were only 17 national schools up to just the other day. Those 17, Nairobi, Lenana, Kenya High, Starehe, Moi Forces Academy, Mangu, Alliance Girls, Loreto High School, Limuru Girls, Mary Hill Girls, Bishop Gatimu Ngandu, Maseno School, Moi High School, Kabarak, Moi Girls, Eldoret, Nakuru High School, Garbatula High School. 17, that's what people knew. Now, even if you ask some people, Garbatula High School, it was a national school. Yes, it was a national school. Okay? Now we've increased that and added, and we have very many more schools that are considered national schools. Ngia Girls High School, Shimolatewa, Matuga Girls, Kwale Boys, Kenyatta Mwatate, Bura Girls, Ribe Boys, for example, Butula Boys, Chavakali Boys, Bunyore Girls, Luguru, Kakamega, Garissa High, Nep Girls, Nyambarira, Nyabururu Girls, Kanga Boys, Mbita Boys, Asumbi Girls. Those who are close to this area know this school, and they know, yes, this one is now a national school. But somebody who is, for example, from Kwale, receiving an admission letter and told, go to Asumbi Girls, they're like,
where is Asumbi?
Huh?
Is that even a national school? Why am I? But the initial question then is that my selection was for a national school.
Yeah.
But then the question is, then why am I being sent to this one? Without the realization that you actually are having been selected for a national school. And that's the thing. Why have these other schools then fallen off the radar when they're at the same level with these other ones? And should more attention then be given to them to say that, hey, folks, whether you're called to, what did you call it?
Asumbi.
or Alliance,
or Motate.
it's the same level.
Yeah.
Why? Why then is that conversation not happening? And why do we see the resistance saying, no. If it is not X school, must be X school, or my child then will not go, or I then will not go.
Because, Ndu, we also look at KCSE and the performance. How many of these schools do you see shining when it comes to KCSE performance? We still go back to the original 17 and a few extras like Miranda and others. Those are the ones that then emerge as actually top performers in KCSE.
So you're not going to put your child at the very beginning of the system to come out at a school whereby the KCSE performance has not been stellar.
Yep.
So then, if you have institutions then that are not delivering your top performer in terms of KCSE, is that the thing that we should say, then keep your students only in these particular schools, or then go into and see what could possibly be the issue? Because it's still very marks oriented. People are still looking at where to take their kids to school because of the marks that students who've gone to those schools have attained.
Yeah.
We can hear and pontificate about learning and wholesome learning and etc., but the marker, no pun intended, is the marks.
Yep.
If you don't have the school that was mentioned in the last tranche of exams having scored this and above, the likelihood
if a school
of
is not in
people-
the top 15, top 20.
It's not worth your
Okay?
time.
We have 103 national schools. Do they occupy the 103 top slots in KCSE results?
Yeah. So,
And you don't want to, we are 103, but this school was okay. It was number 95.
it's okay, just take it.
No.
People don't want to just take it. You want the top.
Your child has gone to school. Your child has come home with marks, and they have 400 and above. Will you sit there and be content and hear, okay, so they went to this school, and then you look back at the school and you're seeing, all right, in the last KCSE, this school was actually ranked about, if you combine their mean and all, they were somewhere in the number 30. And yet you know that your child has actually had selected the current number 1 and the current number 2 as their top 2. And they didn't get to the top 2.
Should the focus not then be on what is it that then either puts these schools at the top? Is it historical performance or historical mindset about what they can or cannot offer? And then looking on the other side, what then can be done to bring these other schools up to scratch? And this up to scratch we're talking about is not necessarily in what they're able to do, but also appearance in the minds of those who are going to take their children there or those who will attend. What can be done? If you're a national school, for example, and you don't have top performers who've come out of your school, then what can be done to say, are we improving the learning? Are we improving the stock or caliber of teachers that are being sent there or are being hired there? Are we improving stock and caliber of teachers countrywide? What needs to be looked at? Because this is a dangerous situation, Eric, whereby you have 11,000 students, right? And everybody is scrambling. Out of the 103, everybody's scrambling for 20 schools. And this is not a Nairobi issue. It is countrywide.
Yep.
Everybody is scrambling for 20 positions. There are 103 available. You've got 11,000 students. There is space. There is capacity. But folks are just not interested. Why? And how can it be made better? I hear what Magoha is saying when he says, look, man, we need to spread this thing across board. We can't have only 500 slots, but we have 500 slots, but then we have 1,000 and something people who have applied to go there. What are we going to do? You have to spread it across. But then also I can hear the demand whereby it's okay, spread it across, but then also give us quality and value.
How do you get the quality and value?
What are these other schools doing?
Well, it's the same thing that you could say, the primary schools. We saw the list of primary schools and the ones that were producing top performers, right? For example, Kitengela International, when you're looking at that list the other day, it was notable that Kitengela International had over 10 students occupying the top 30 slots.
It absolutely was. 5
Right.
years ago, was Kitengela International on the radar? It was not.
So what is it that they're doing?
Exactly. And I think that that's what needs to be looked at. Have they been more pointed in terms of their learning strategies? Have they been more pointed in what they're asking teachers to do in terms of now conveying this knowledge to students? are there things that they have been doing? And I think this is where, unfortunately, the ministry maybe is too busy, and not in a negative way, that they're so encompassed with doing so much that they have really a lot on their plates, right? That you're not actually then looking at better learning. The structure has been given so much attention over time. Let's build more schools. Let's make sure that we are bringing in a different curriculum.
Let's increase the capacity.
Let's increase our capacity. Exactly. Let's make sure that we have 100% transition at the primary and secondary level, But then the makeup of the education. And I know there has been training, there are many things going on, etc., etc. However, are we looking at the structure of education? We also heard Magoha say yesterday that he feels as though performance overall has improved at the public level, even though private schools have done better than public schools in these recent exams. But he has seen that there's been an overall improvement in how education has been delivered.
Yeah.
Now, how about some more attention then was paid and focused? Because it is a lot of work. I mean, we're talking about schools in the tens of thousands around the country.
Yep.
Is it possible to then streamline learning? Is it possible to streamline teaching and make sure that what you're delivering is improving and it's on the increase year on year? Because if you take an institution like that, seriously, in 2017, who knew that there was a school called Kitengela International? But then now you have it running on your ticker during the news, because you can see students coming out of that school and the high marks that they're getting. What did they do?
So it's basically the school management.
Exactly.
It's the same thing that then you'll say, when you look at this list of national schools, one of the considerations for the national school is the space that they have. So they're able to accommodate more students. You can hear, for example, just the clip from Dennis Aseto's news, him saying, let's say Alliance. Alliance has a capacity to accommodate 500 students. A school that can take up 500 students means it has a lot of space to build extra classrooms, to have more streams. Can you imagine 500 from ones?
Wow. And
plus
you're
500 from
class,
two. So it's a student population of 2,000.
Those are 11 streams for one class. 11.
A 2,000 student capacity. You're talking about 2,000 beds in dormitories, 2,000 capacity of a dining hall. It's huge. So one of the considerations will be that. It will be space and ability to actually accommodate large numbers. Then, of course, you look at now, do you have the amenities? Do you have all? So let's call this a national school. Then the others, let's call this an extra county school. This is a county school. This is a sub-county school. Sub-county schools are mostly day schools. Their capacity, they don't have dormitories. They are day schools. They don't have big dining halls. Okay, they don't have many streams, so they'll not admit many students because they are the 600,000 students who are going to the extra county schools, and now the sub-county schools are spread into the very many sub-county schools. So there are all these considerations that made this school a national school. But we have grown up and we've been socialized to know that, go to a national school, then you can have the bragging rights. I mean, I went to a national school, you can brag rights. I mean,
brag for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But isn't that a societal thing, though, then? It is a societal thing. And just as that has been able to come up...
It's indicative of, that you're a high performer.
So then, this is the thing. What would it take to bring these other schools along? Because I'm sure that of the 103, it is not 103 that were filled to capacity in the last year.
Nope.
Absolutely not. You would be able to find yourself somewhere midterm and still go to some of these national schools. And
like
they
we
say,
said,
come, there's space.
These 103 national schools have a capacity of 30,000, okay?
Yeah.
There are 11,000 or so students who've scored 400 and above. I can bet you, this 11,000, their first choice was not Asumbi. It was the Alliances and the Kenya Highs and the Mangus and such, right? It was not Butere Girls High School or Butula Boys or Kapsowar Girls in Moi, Baringo Boys High School. It's not, let me look for another school, Kabare Girls High School, or it's not. These 11,000 have basically all gone for like 5 or 6,
exactly,
at most 10 schools. So there's serious competition for slots in these 10 schools. Then you'll find another school that has, how many people had applied to join us? 50.
We have a capacity for 500.
Yeah.
Just come, we'll take.
Just come.
So what is it going to...
So there's somebody, the person who does not get that slot in Mangu Alliance, Pangani, Kenya High, then goes into this other one. So you're called to Asumbi or another school and you're wondering, why?
Where is this?
Why? I mean, I delivered. I got the marks. It's a national school. I don't care.
Just as society then, because it is society, just as society has been able to give these particular schools a leg up, then because it's the people who graduated from these schools, it's the people who finished at these schools who came out and then were able to make a position for themselves in society, then started with the bragging rights and say, look, this is the school that we went to. This is how we've been able to do it. Oh, hail my head teacher. Oh, hail my teacher who taught me at this. It's the other ones who've been able to do that. What's it going to take to bring these other schools up there? Who says that then it cannot be bragged of Butere girls? Who says that it cannot be bragged of Asumbi girls?
Wajir High School, Wajir Girls,
who
Mandela
says
Secondary.
it cannot be? So they may have the capacity, but then do they have the societal marker that is needed for them to come up? And I think that it has to be then deliberate to make it just so.
By who?
The same society. Who's making noise about who went to Butere?
If Butere started shining here in the KCSE,
So then you have to ask yourself, because at the end of the day, is that
people
who went to these institutions did well.
Yes.
They performed really well, and then it was pointing to that the teachers have done something right.
Yes.
The administration has done something right. That head teacher's got his or her head screwed on right, and they've been able to perform well. All right. So shouldn't the question be then, if schools who are all operating within the boundaries of this country have been able to perform so well, they don't have two heads. Right? They're functioning human beings. What is it? Can we not be looking then at application of this and saying, then let it be applied across board so that you have more people in the pool? The pool is big enough, but you have too few entrants, unfortunately. Is there a better form of education that's being applied at these schools? Is there something they're doing right? And why can't that formula then be duplicated across the country? Why should it be the purview or right of just a few?
How can we get Sironga Girls High School and S.A. Kolanya Girls Secondary School, which are both national schools,
in the mouths of people?
Top choice schools for Standard 8 candidates.
And it should be the question, how can we do it?
Okay, let's open that conversation. 0719-012-600, 28 minutes to 8. Time for a quick break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making his living through hard work.
The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kanu, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Madare, presidential tour. Yeah? And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the enemies says, kuna jina kama yangu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Still looking at partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi, a chance of rain coming back later, going to highs of 25 and lows of 16. It's sunny at 15 in Nakuru, highs of 27 and lows of 13. 13 will also be the low in a rainy Nyeri at 13, highs of 24. We'll see highs of 25 in Eldoret, where it's raining sunny, I beg your pardon, at 13 and coming down to lows of 12. Mostly cloudy conditions giving way to rain later in Mombasa at 27, highs of 32 and lows of 26. While it's partly sunny in Malindi, 32 will be the high and lows of 27. It's partly sunny at 19 in Kisumu, highs of 29 and lows of 18. While we'll see highs of 30 in Kakamega, where it's partly sunny, coming down to lows of 15. Light rain in Kampala continues, highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 32 in Dar es Salaam, where it is cloudy at 23. 17 and clear in Johannesburg, 26 will be the high and lows of 13. While it's mostly clear at 29 in Lagos, it'll go to highs of 34. 35 will be the high in a very warm Kinshasa, already at 24.
Spice up your life.
Yikes, whatever is happening on Mombasa Road, my goodness, more power to you. It is really slow going towards North Airport Road, coming off the SGR, then going out towards Cabanas and out towards General Motors. That has slowed things down considerably this morning. The Southern Bypass is looking pretty good. There's the option to use that. We're looking at Uhuru Highway, then out into the city and out through Westlands. Slowly, Langata Road, Gong Road, Raila Odinga Way, Jogo Road. It's all packing up, and we just started traffic hour on the Thika Superhighway. Not too bad. Okay, I take that back. It's heavy and it's going all the way to Allsops. It's also really heavy on Kiambu Road today, as well as Limuru Road. We'll keep an eye on things, and then let's talk. SpiceFM, KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
"24 minutes to 8, the conversation continues. We are talking about Form 1 selection that's about to begin in 2 weeks' time after the results were released by the Kenya National Examinations Council and the Ministry of Education. Now the next thing moves is the selection of Form 1s. We know that this one usually raises issues, especially among the top performers. Those that scored above 400 marks and above were about 11,000 countrywide, out of a candidate population of about 1.2 million. 11,000 scored 400 and above. That is good performance. Very good performance. Now the issue is, what secondary schools are they going to be admitted to? There are national schools, extra county schools, county schools and sub-county schools. National schools, 103 of them spread across the country, and they have a total combined capacity, according to the Education CS, of 30,000 students. So the 11,000 that scored A and above, 300 and 400 and above, automatically get a slot in the national schools. The problem is which school? The ones that scored 303 up to 399 get slots into the extra county and very good county schools. The question is, which school? We have seen this before, where people say, my child scored 400 and they had selected to go to a very well-renowned national school called Maranda High School, for example. And then that was their first choice. Their second choice was, let's say, give me a school apart from Alliance, because we've been given Maseno, right? Maseno School. And they have not been taken there. They have been called to Nyandarua High School or Moyale Secondary School or Garbatula High School. How on earth? How can this happen?
And I think that's the thing. That's the thing right there. That why does it have to be? And it's because of that, again, cred that these schools have gotten over time that has been fueled by people's perceptions or fueled by performances that they have been able to make in the past. But look, we also see good examples of schools that were not, carefully saying nothing before in the minds of people that people did not even know where they were, that have improved over time. And is this not the cycle that schools can take? Because, and it's not something that is unique to Kenya alone. You'll find that in other countries, of course, they've been able to gain their credibility. But I'm saying it's about time, in order to have a proper balance of things, it's about time that you're looking at what have been the strategies for success that these institutions have been able to use. Is it not something that can be taken and duplicated and spread across so that, I mean, come on, guys, 103 national schools, and then about 20 of them are getting the attention year on year? What is it that they have been able to do? Why can you not take that same thing and spread it across?
I think one of the things, though, Ndu, is historical. Because just like we're saying, we now have 103 national schools. We didn't always have 103 national schools.
No.
At some point, we had 10 national schools, and we went into about 17 national schools, and we had provincial schools.
Yes.
Many of the current national schools were former provincial schools, which means that they were very good schools even then. Okay? There are some schools that people did not know, for example, that were provincial schools, and then they have now become national schools. Those that knew them to be provincial schools, they knew them to be very good schools.
Yeah.
But you see, it's a provincial school. People in that province know that this is a good provincial school because they are likely to end up in that school. If you are not from Coast Province, you are from Western Province, you don't necessarily know all the good provincial schools in Coast Province, okay? In the former Coast Province. Now that school is a national school. Your child has done their exam in some school, some primary school in Western. They get admission to this school in the coast.
Yeah.
You had not heard of it before. You have never come across somebody who says, I went to this school, and now you're being told that this is a national school. The first thing you're considering is 400, my child is going to Alliance Girls, okay?
Yeah.
So we're not even discussing this, okay? They are going to Moi Girls Eldoret, okay? We're not discussing this. Lugulu Girls, okay? Because I use Western, so we know this one. And then you called some school. You're wondering, how is this? Why is my child being called to some sub-county school? No, it's a national school.
But then, look, because we're talking about an attitude shift that needs to take place then. It's an attitude. How are you going to change that attitude? Because people, look, this is the thing, that there is no soft story you used to tell people. A school has historically done well. That is the reason why people are hell-bent on making sure that they also attend or that their children attend. Because they've historically done well. What has made them do well historically? Has there been an amount of discipline that has been applied across board? Whether it is the teaching, whether it is the students. What is it that they have been able to do? You've added schools, like you said, over time to the national tally of national schools. There's a reason why they have been added. It's not just your run-of-the-mill, oh, okay, you have some space on some good acreage, we make you a national school. No, I believe that there are other factors that have been taken into consideration that then characterizes them as national schools. But there's a life, there's a spirit, right, that has not been picked up by everybody else to say, actually, you know what? They are at par with the rest. And I'm saying that thing. Put it in a bottle, sell it. Let everybody else be drinking of this water as well.
And brand it nicely.
Because you continue having this problem. And
what is it that needs to be done?
People started lobbying before their children even became candidates, became class 8 students.
They're already trying to find out.
Yes, now. They started talking.
Do you know the headmistress or the headmaster?
Can we go and see you take me?
Do you know the chair of the board? Who sits on the board?
Across the country, these conversations have started happening.
Yeah.
The same thing we know about schools now, that it is when the mother is pregnant. The child has not been born. It's when the mother is pregnant, you go book in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Why? They did well. Okay. It's prestigious because of 1, 2, 3. It's all right. Can it be applied across board?
We level this 103 national schools. We level them.
The
so if you mention any of them, if you mention, let's look at them. If you mention Mamangina Girls, Ribe Boys, or Kagumu High School, you'll mention them in the same breath. You're mentioning Meru School, Makueni Boys, or Alliance, or Miranda.
Yeah.
Same.
Yes.
If you say Mangu High School and you say Kenyatta High School Motate or Bura Girls, you will be mentioning them in the same breath. You're going to mention Garissa High or Kanga High, or Ngao Girls Secondary School, or Lamu Girls, or Kathiani Girls, or Garbatula High, or Turkana Girls, or Kisima Girls High School, Chewoyet High School, Tenwek High School, Kabianga High School, St. Joseph Girls, Chepterit. you should be mentioning them in the same breath. How do we do that? 0719-012-600. John says, and he sent me a message here, says, you see the way NBA do their selections. Suppose the selection of Form 1s is done like the NBA rookie drafts. That means the last team in the league gets the first opportunity to choose in the drafts. Would this level the playing field?
It's highly possible, man.
So we say that the machine gives higher preference to
the least recognized
Garissa boys. All right. So people who have selected, so give Alliance and then the next ones. The next lot goes to Garissa.
Yeah.
So you have Garissa getting the first opportunity to dip the hand in the jar and select. Yeah. So the best students start now going to those schools, and so then we see.
Exactly. You spread it out, because that's what's going to happen. Look, and I understand the formula, whether it is marked out. I understand that there are schools who if you look at the schools in the US and now looking at universities and colleges, your Harvard, your Stanford, your Babson, they got their credibility because of the education that they were able to deliver. But then there have been other schools, and how did that come up? Because there were people who made it in life who went to these schools and started talking about the schools that they went to.
Yeah. Let's hear about them. 0719-012-600. Teresa in Mombasa, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
I wanted to make a contribution in the ongoing discussion.
Yes.
From a parent's point of view.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and also from a previous student's point of view. I think the first thing that maybe makes a difference in these national schools is the effort that are put in by the running principals. Forget about the historic bit at first, because I want to specifically mention a school. A school that is highly on the radar in the current system, but previously it was not a national school. It was among the previous provincial schools, and that is Maranda. Maranda was a provincial school.
Yes.
What gave it the limelight that the other previous provincial schools are not enjoying? It is the effort by then, the principals in the school, that they put the structures that they put in place. Because remember, the top cream, the creme de la creme of the country went to the national schools at that time. So they were picking the same pupils that are in the same cadre with the other pupils in the extra county, that is provincial schools. But these pupils were pushed to be the tops in the nation. Meaning all these schools have the potential.
So it's about leadership.
Yeah, it's about leadership. And I don't know if we have forums for teachers where they really exchange on the nitty-gritties of how these schools are run. Forget about the other issues, the flamboyant teachers meetings that I see in Mombasa, right now, is going on. Forget about those. I want where they really sit and ask their fellows, see,
how you didn't get doing this? Cream.
Yes, you didn't get the top cream. So let's say you didn't get the most intelligent pupils in the country. You got the average pupil, but you made them the best.
How did you
do it? How did you do this?
Absolutely.
That will uplift all these other schools. Because if Miranda did this, I believe Niagar can do it. I believe Matuga can do it. So it's the principles that have been put in place. Then secondly, the facilities. Because I've had a student who had the chance to go to one of the well-known national schools. And now I have one who is in a county school. And the difference is so big, my dear. You wouldn't even want your people to be there. The diet, the food, all these are our children, all these are our...
So there's a marked difference. There's a marked difference in the quality of life that they get in the school.
Exactly. Why do we create these disparities in the school? Yet it's the same government.
Let me ask you, Teresa.
Yes.
How would you compare the fees that you pay for the two?
The fee, there's no much difference. unless you're taking your child to a national school, probably maybe a private school, it's not something that is so tangible. Like as at that time when the big girl was going to Form 1, I think I paid roughly 57,000.
For the first term?
No, for the whole year.
For the whole year.
Yeah, so the fee difference doesn't make. Plus, another thing we need to consider when we're speaking about this fee, when these students are called to these particular schools, they are not called to those schools because they can afford to pay a specific amount of fee.
Yep. Right.
They're called to these schools because their performance allowed them to be there. So we do create even these disparities in school fees. We can just balance this such that the same facilities in a county school equals the same facilities in a national school. Some of these schools you go to, they don't even have the laboratories. Yet the one in the national school has physics, chemistry, biology, home science, computer. Why?
And they have the extras. They've got
Can the government tell us this?
And the power mechanics.
Yeah, exactly. Why are you uplifting a student that you feel has done better than that one that has not done better? Why are you giving him a better opportunity to keep doing better, and then you're stepping on the other one? What is your reasoning?
Good point. Good point.
So
Thank
exactly,
you, Teresa.
I think that's it. I think that's what brings the difference. Have a lovely, lovely day.
You too, Teresa. Have a good one. Karanja in Naivasha, good morning.
Good morning, Eric and Du.
Good morning, Karanja.
Yes, the city in today.
City is not in today.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, Eric.
Yes.
This issue of pedagogy, pedagogy procedures, pedagogy issues. Now, I think the problem is here. There are two things that we should do. For the school to perform better nationally or county, there must be the effort between the parents, the teachers, and even the principal. You see, there is a tendency for the Kenyans parents. They play very well. But going to school and see how the child or the student is performing, it is a problem. You will hear a parent have paid full school fees from Form 1 to Form 4, and yet he does not know how his daughter or his son is performing in school. We may have resources in school for these things. But what about if the parents had not go and check how his daughter or his son is doing in school? Now, Eric, I think if we do this, we can move greater heights.
We'll move further. Thank you, Karanja. Thank you very much. 0719-012-600. John says, it takes a lot to create a good secondary school. That's why we have fewer good secondary schools than we have good primary schools. It takes a lot of infrastructure, the development of culture, and it usually boils down to leadership and support from the board of management or the board of directors.
I agree.
I'll add the Parents Association as well.
I agree that it takes a lot. Fair point, well made. However, nothing worth having is ever easy. And if it can be done by one, it can be done by others. And that's the thing. Because it takes a lot to do it, then we say, well, it takes a lot. So no, it takes a lot, absolutely. And I don't think you would want to say, well, we didn't really have to put much effort into getting this the way we are. We just kind of sailed along and then we got it. No, it takes a lot.
So what would this a lot be?
Do it. And
you see, leadership is a lot of things.
It's very many things. Did you hear what Teresa said? How about that leader who said, you know what, I'm going to get this institution from point A to point B. It wasn't just a solo effort. There were people coming together. These meetings that they have, apart from the flamboyance of going on a retreat to a coastal town, sitting down and actually mapping out these strategies. What did we do? Can we make sure across the board? Because you're dealing a fraternity of people. These people talk to one another. Teachers across, doesn't matter where you are in the country, they speak to one another. They conference. Why are we not sharing ideas? Why are we not talking about strategies for success? Why are leaders then not being deliberate to make sure that you can get it to be better? There's so many schools that you can come up with examples of how they improved over time. Why did they improve? What did they do? Why are we not ready and willing to share the thing that has helped you with somebody else because you'll compete. So what? So what? Because you'll compete. So
Take
what?
something. Let's go back to the phone line 0719-012-600. Calling us from Seattle, Washington, USA. Dennis.
Yes. Habari asubuhi.
Mzuri sana, Dennis. How are you?
Good. It's 9 o'clock here. So I just want to comment about the education system in Kenya.
Yep.
I'm an 844 guy. I went through 844. And I'm a student of Socrates. And Socrates said, effective knowledge opens up your mind for more emptiness. Because Socrates told the Greeks that I figured out I'm the wisest guy because I don't know anything. Now, the 844 education, it's meant to pump knowledge to students' brain, not open their brain, but pump it with a lot of information and knowledge. Then these students spill out everything on an exam. It doesn't help. Look at the economy situation. Look at buildings falling down left, right, and center. Are we producing professionals? Where is integrity? Okay? You go to others, when you look at other education systems in the West, in Europe, kids are taught a subject about being a citizen, being a patriot. Okay? I'm an engineer. I build this road. I'm told this road, my kids will use this road one day. My neighbor's kids will use this road one day. We don't have that.
Okay, so Dennis,
we need to bring such kind of education. Yeah.
How would that then change the quality of education across all schools in the country? So when we say that we have these schools that have been categorized as national schools or extra county schools or county or sub-county schools, you know that if your child goes to this particular school, they'd perform very well. They'd perform well regardless of where they are.
And they go there because they passed the exam.
Yep.
It's based because they've passed the exam. That's why they go there.
Yes.
It's not that the child knows knowledge. It's an exam-based thing. But you see, for us, it kind of segregated us because, you see, you put kids who passed an exam in good facility schools. Average kids go in average schools with average facilities. Below average students go to below average schools with below average facilities. You find schools in remote areas where kids have never seen a laboratory. They'll only see it when they go do KCSE. And then all these categories are fighting for the same position at the university. And then you go to university, we have courses in the Kenyan universities don't make sense to the economy. So the whole system needs to be changed.
Okay.
Because 844 did not work and it's not working. Look at the current situation of the country.
That's why it's changing to CBC. Thank you very much, Dennis. Have a good evening. Say hello to your neighbor, Bill Gates.
Okay.
Good one. Dixon in Nairobi as we close the hour. Good morning.
Yes, Eric and Do.
Good morning, Dixon.
Morning. I'm just hearing a lot of parents contributing, and I thought, no, I don't normally call in, but this one I had to call in. I am lucky to have gone to one of those national schools that at one point were not really at the top, and that is specifically, name it Garbatula. My children have gone to national schools. Lucky for me, I create the situation in the house that where you fit is where you go.
Right.
So if you are not performing at the level at which you are not going to a national school, don't expect me to go out of my way. I will do everything for you to go to the best primary school because I think it is foundational. But I'm not going to squeeze another Kenyan out of their chance to put you in a national school because I went to a national school.
Right.
So I think one is the parents need to understand where they are. We are actually pushing some people into those national schools who do not actually, by their capacity, belong there. Just because me and you can be able to push our children to those schools. So that becomes the skewed point first.
It becomes
Number
a big
two,
issue.
Yes. Number two is the gentleman who has just spoken about 844 and I'm also 844. In fact, the first cohort of 844. Education is what you make out of it, because everything the world throws at you, there are people who start their education the same 844 and they start their schools at +5.
Yeah, and they do better. Dixon, we're coming to the end of the hour. Dixon, thank you very much for calling and thank you for joining in this conversation. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Ndo.
Thanks,
Alrighty.
Dixon.
Keep it here for more. Coming up in the next hour, 8 o'clock, we'll have lawyer Dunstan Omari talking about, okay, so where are the chips likely to fall from 9 a.m. when the Supreme Court judges sit to deliver their judgment? Very good morning to you. 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice
This is
FM.
Newswire Dennis Aseto. All eyes are now on the Supreme Court, where 7 judges led by Chief Justice Martha Koome expected to give their verdict on the BBI, which was dismissed by the Court of Appeal on August 25th last year after being declared unconstitutional. CJ Martha Koome will be accompanied by Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu, Supreme Court judges Mohammed Ibrahim, Smoky Ranjala and Joaquin Dung and Isaac Lenaola. An appeal against the Court of Appeal verdict on the BBI, the Supreme Court, was filed by the Electoral Agency IEBC, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Attorney General Kiara Kariuki. The Attorney General focused his objectives and objects the decision on the basic structure and the steps that should be taken to amend the Constitution after the Court of Appeal ruled that the Kenyan Constitution had a fundamental basic structure. Lawyers from the AG's office, in conjunction with President Kenyatta's lawyers, opposed the decision that the President could not institute the exercise of amending the Constitution and further opposed the decision that the head of state could be prosecuted. Meanwhile, the IEBC wants the court to find fault with the decision that it lacked quorum to make some key decisions surrounding the BBI process. IEBC lawyer Professor Githu Muigai highlighting the risk that comes with the decision, arguing that it would affect the Commission's previous activities. Newswire and Standard Media Group will be camping at the Supreme Court, and we will bring you the latest from the Supreme Court. Now, Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria has threatened to drag the Supreme Court into his misconduct case before the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission after the Electoral Agency resolved to slot the matter for a full hearing. The lawmaker, who objected the full hearing now scheduled for April 7th, 2022, defended himself from accusations of wrongdoing following his vote rigging claims. Kuria is being interrogated by the Commission's Electoral Code of Conduct Enforcement Committee following his remarks which he made on March 15th, suggesting that the 2013 and 2017 general elections were rigged in favor of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Nairobi Metropolitan Service Director General Mohammed Badi held denied authorizing evictions in Pumwani and Isli Estate owned by the Nairobi City County, saying NMS officers who participated in the raids did so without his approval. Badi made the statement when he appeared before the Senate Devolution and Intergovernmental Committee. He said the evictions were enforced by the Nairobi Regional Security Committee, supervised by Principal Secretary Karanja Kibisho under the auspices of the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government. Badi denied having received court orders enforcing the evictions after it emerged a private developer secured the same. Now, Inspector General Hilary Mutyambai has appealed against a 500,000 shillings penalty fine imposed on him by the Senate Devolution Committee for failure to honor summons. In a letter addressed to the clerk of the Senate, Jermaine Nyengenye, Mutyambai apologized, noting that his failure to appear before the committee was not in bad faith. The Inspector General was summoned by the committee to explain why police officers were used in the illegal evictions of residents of Pumwani and Eastleigh. Mutyambai argued that gathering of relevant facts to issue comprehensive report on evictions from the Ministry of Interior and Coordination took longer than anticipated. Further, he blamed his assistant for misinforming him on the slated dates to appear before the Homa Bay Senator Moses Kajwang-led committee. Now, the suspected killers of a 3-year-old boy whose body was found dumped at Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital in Nairobi last month have been arrested. Baby David, whose story hit the interwebs eliciting anger from members of the public, is said to have been under the care of a woman identified as Phyllis Nyeri alongside his 6-year-old brother. Detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations have since established that the boy was killed at Nyeri and her husband Jackson Ngui's home in Kwamaji as his brother watched. Nyeri and her husband were arrested at Ilasit village, Kajiado County, close to the Kenya-Tanzania border, where they had reportedly gone to hide after the incident. Now, more than 4 million Ukrainians have fled the country to escape the war. The United Nations UNHCR said 4,019,287 Ukrainians have fled across the country's borders since the February 24th invasion, with more than 2.3 million having headed west into Poland. The number of refugees has surpassed the UNHCR initial estimate that the war could create up to 4 million. The agency says the speed and scale of the displacement is unprecedented in Europe since World War II. And 4 new key players have been included in the National Rugby Sevens team that will head out to the 5th and 6th legs of this season's Sevens World Series next month. Colin Shikoli, Zed and Maru, Rikel Wangila and Ben Salem will travel with the Kenya team for the April legs to be held in Singapore and Vancouver. Wangila, Maru and Shikoli are part of the travelling party to Singapore, while Salem will link up with the team in Vancouver alongside Alvin Otieno and Timothy Masi. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Seto.
In the middle of traffic hours where we are, a few minutes after 8 o'clock, and now is where we're seeing it really clogging up into the city, coming off of Nyeri Stadium roundabout on Uhuru Highway, then heading out into the CBD and then into Westlands. Chiromo doing its thing today. Okay, so folks are asking, over the last 2 weeks, what has been going on around Chiromo? So the construction continues and the road has been made narrower. And because of that, everybody out in the morning, that is going to make things slow down considerably, and we're being told that it's okay, it's a hiccup. As that part of the construction is sorted out, this traffic situation will also be sorted out. Fingers crossed. Let's keep our wits about, shall we? Coming off Waiguru Way, use the Red Hill Link Road if you're trying to get away from the traffic that is currently there. Kiambu Road piled up real quickly this morning, going all the way towards Pipeline now. And we're also looking at the Thika Superhighway. It's a mess today, guys. Bumper to bumper, everywhere you look. And folks are asking, what has happened again? Well, lots of traffic is what's going on there. Outer Ring also doing that thing this morning, and we're looking at Mombasa Road heading out towards Cabanas and then towards North Airport Road in that direction. That has slowed down, as well as the Eastern Bypass. It is traffic hour. It is the time. It is the hour. Let's keep an eye on what's going on. Let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods and talk about it on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
And it's
This
8 minutes
is the
after 8 on the
Situation Room,
final day
the
of March
only way to start your
2022.
day.
Happy Thursday, happy first Friday of the week. And this is happy last day of the month and happy last day of quarter 1, 2022. What have you achieved in the first quarter on your vision board? Well, there are some milestones. Quarter 1, just take it easy, just, understand, study the environment, and then write a plan and start implementing it in quarter 2.
Here we are.
and it sounded like, quarter 2 is far. Tomorrow.
Cometh the time, cometh the hour.
Tomorrow is quarter 2. Begin doing it. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We have a guest in the studio, Advocate Dunstan Omari. Before we introduce him, the day's proverb. Now that CT Muga has taken a day off today to just sit and, he has friends in the Supreme Court. And he did not want to be here and give leakage. It may just slip.
This day off was strategic.
He has friends in the Supreme Court. How many?
Say things like this.
4 of the judges of the Supreme Court are City Muga's personal friends. Hey, so he was like, "Apana today."
No.
This one, let me sit it out. No. Anyway, he's away on a break. The day's proverb is from Namibia. Namibia is a country in the southern part of Africa, and it exports, among other things, live animals, manufactured goods, tungsten, silver, zinc, tin, lead, uranium, and diamonds. In fact, 25% of Namibia's exports, thereabout, diamonds. So, the proverb is about diamonds. And Namibians say, a diamond's father is coal, yet it regards itself as upper class. A diamond comes from coal, but no. I'm a diamond. I'm upper class. I mean, we're different. Yeah, I come from the ground. Yeah, but you see, I'm upper class.
I'm set apart, my friend.
Yes, setting yourself apart. Welcome to our guest, Dunstan Omari, Advocate. Good morning, Wakili.
Do I answer in Kiswahili and in English?
In all languages.
In all languages. Sijambo. Good morning, everybody.
There's not that joke of Wakili, a quick one. When you want to seek some advice and you don't want to pay for it, Wakili, a quick one.
Just a quick one.
Just a fast one.
It's just a fast one. What if, suppose I was to, get into a contract and then these people are telling me 1 or 2 things.
I have a friend.
Yeah, I have a friend. What should I advise them? A quick one, Wakili. From your experience, from your friends in the corridors of justice, you practice with them, you have some of them you've gone to school with, some of them you meet in what City Muga calls cultural establishments. Ukuna leakage BBI.
The leakage is with everybody. But I have mine very seriously. 1, based on the position of the law. 2, based on the body language of the judges and their philosophy on what they stand on. 3rd, what the country is expecting. So really, everybody has a leakage. The problem is whether the leakage is the real one. Because you can have one what you think is a leakage. The results are already out. There's nothing to guess about it. The judgment is ready. It is written. It is only waiting for spies to put it live to the Kenyans. So there's really nothing to anticipate. It is already cast in stone.
In about 45 minutes, the Supreme Court judges will start delivering this judgment. Now, what is before them? What was taken before the Supreme Court judges?
The Supreme Court judges are dealing with a question, the very many questions that started from the High Court, came to the Court of Appeal. Then the 7 questions were presented before the judges in the Supreme Court. One is a question about whether the IBC had the quorum to deal with the matters as presented at that time. Remember, the IBC was not fully constituted as we have today. 2, whether the president can initiate a popular initiative or the president is barred from dealing with that issue. 3rd, whether the Kenya is going to allow the executive to appoint a judicial ombudsman from the executive point of view. 4th, the question about, the biggest question is about the basic structure. Do we have some provisions of the Constitution that cannot be amended, that are the pillars, the foundation based that this country cannot touch. Then the other issues are really not issues about the 270 constituencies, whether the IBC has that jurisdiction or Parliament can have the jurisdiction. The question about the referendum and very many others. But the bigger question is, those are legal rigmaroles. The real questions Kenyans are asking is Raila winning? Is Ruto winning? That is what the question is. But as lawyers, will be looking at those jargons and everything. The verdict is Kenyans will be waiting to hear Spice say, BBI dead, reggae is back.
Dunstan,
that is all.
You say Kenyans are wondering, even through this BBI appeal process, whether it will be overturned or not, whether Raila is winning or whether Ruto is winning. What does that have to do with anything?
Really, this was a question that was framed for the politics of 2022. The formation and the arithmetic to formation of BBI was geared towards creating a momentum for political one party to lose and another party to win. At the fulcrum of the BBI, legally, is the legal questions. Politically, is the question about who becomes the next president and whether the President of the Republic of Kenya, the current one, can have a say on who comes to be the next president. So really, it was hidden. It was chameleonic. Now we are dealing with the question as framed for the 9th of August 2022. Is BBI going to pass? Well, if it passes, who will it hurt most? The horses have been defined. There are only two. Who will benefit out of it? Suppose, and I have just been talking here, Kenyans, the two presenters are shocked. Suppose the BBI today, judges say the election is deferred to 2030. What can we do? Where can we go? The decision of the Supreme Court is final. Whether the Supreme Court decision is wrong, whether the Supreme Court decision is right, we have no avenue to challenge that decision. Are we going to get real thunder coming out today, or are we going to get the anticlimax?
Do you think, Dunstan, that the 7 judges of the Supreme Court will be sitting and looking at this from that political angle? Understanding the politics of the day, understanding the political implication of whatever they tell us today. Will they be factoring that in, or will they just look at, this is the argument before the court, these are the prayers? There are 7 issues. What do we think about the 7 issues from a legal standpoint? Or will they balance it?
We look at the Supreme Court from 3 angles. One, the Supreme Court is not an ordinary creature. Worldwide, Supreme Courts are not completely strictly judicial courts. They are not legalistic. The Supreme Courts are supposed to look at other exterior issues. For example, the public interest, the finances that have been put in place, what is the general population wanting for, stabilizing the politics of the day, the morals of the people, the values of the people. So when you look at the Supreme Court, you are looking at a quasi-judicial entity that its role is to keep the fabric of the country together. While you look at the High Court and the Court of Appeal, is strictly the law. Procedures. If you didn't get it, if you didn't file your papers within this time, if it's not provided by the law, that is all. So we are likely to see much of the politics of the day coming out in the judgment of the Supreme Court today.
Okay, so if I'm just going to jump from one peg to the next, Danson, what you're essentially saying is that politics will be taken into consideration here.
Completely.
Politically, we already know that folks take sides. So if we take it to its logical conclusion, then there's a possibility that the Supreme Court will take a side as opposed to being judicious and impartial in nature, which already seems unfair.
The question before the court is not a legal question. It's a political question. The Supreme Court has only one question that it must take sides: a presidential election. One has lost, one as one.
But based on procedure. Dancer.
Very many issues.
It was based on procedure. And I think that was one of the things they said. The procedure through which this election winner was declared was faulty. It was flawed.
Yes.
Based on that, they made a decision. In this case, you're basically saying you're taking the political atmosphere into consideration and you're going to make a decision based on that. You almost have no choice but to be biased.
In 2017, in 2013, in Raila 1, 2013, Raila 2, 2017, Raila 3, 2017, there was only one question: who is the winner? In the BBI question, there are 7 to 10 questions. So the Supreme Court has the leeway to give you 3, give you 4, to balance that.
Let me come back to that. 2017. The Supreme Court did not dispute the winner of the election.
Yes.
The Supreme Court had an issue with the flawed procedure as to the transmission of results. They did not come and say Uhuru Kenyatta did not win the election. They did not say he's not the winner. They said there was a problem with procedure, and that problem could be traced, right? Here, we're talking, like you said, on issues morality, politics, which is all subjective. So it would, again, I'm just going back and I'm trying to, if you have not noticed, get you to say clearly, are you essentially saying that there's the possibility here that the Supreme Court could be biased in its ruling because of the fact that it's dealing with politics and trying to keep the country tied together in peace?
If you look at the Supreme Court from the eyes of a legalistic approach, then we'll think that it will be biased. If we look at the Supreme Court and look at the jurisprudence for the creation of the Supreme Court, the object behind the creation of the Supreme Court is to ensure that this country does not collapse. That is not different. That's totally different from the structure and objectives of the Court of Appeal and the lower court. So in essence, they will look at procedure out of one argument, kill one argument or grant one argument based on procedure. They will look at another argument, use the parameter of politics, kill it or grant it. They look at another argument and say the churches and the religious guys need to be appeased also, get that as a parameter, get somebody losing and somebody. So because of the variety available, the options available are 7 out of 10, they will use all the parameters for everybody to work with a win-win situation. If the Supreme Court today decides with finality that the BBI is dead, we are talking of 49.99% of the people in Azimio getting dissatisfied, and the William Ruto team either 51.001. If it is the opposite, it is the same thing. This country needs healing. And the healing that is likely to be, it will be a very subjective type of judgment that will be able to keep
to appease both sides?
To appease both sides.
Why should they do that though, Dunstan? I mean, look. First of all, is it really likely to be that if the judges say BBI as was presented is good enough to go, it should go to a referendum, that there is likely to be a loser? I don't see it.
The loser in this matter.
Thing of saying that, William Ruto will be the one out who, if we go to a referendum, then William Ruto loses. I don't see it.
What I'm saying,
two camps stand to gain.
Yes.
If BBI goes to referendum.
Very well.
None of them stands to lose, really, if it goes to the referendum.
Remember,
it could be an issue of a bruising on the part of Raila Odinga because he came out openly to advocate for BBI, and William Ruto sat on the fence, only coming out at the end of a judgment by the Court of Appeal to say, Mungu anapenda hii Kenya sana. But before that, William Ruto has not said, I do not want BBI.
There are only two guys that we think are in the Supreme Court. There are more than other players in the Supreme Court, but they are not parties registered in the Supreme Court. For example, the church. It is part of the Supreme Court, but nobody has filed their papers to represent the church. Two, the judiciary itself is a part in this matter. The fact that we have the judiciary ombudsman as a question to be decided, the judiciary, the 7 judges are parties in this case, but they are not formally a party in this matter. So that's what I've said. When you make a judgment of such a magnitude on very many questions, it is wisdom and it is the way you handle it that matters. The judges have a fundamental opportunity, the Solomonic opportunity today, either to move with the country or to move with that 49% of the country. That is the question. Unlike in presidential decisions where there will be only one winner. Here, but the judges might decide, we don't care.
Why can't there be one winner here?
Well, we don't care. We throw out the BBI or we grant the BBI. What will be the repercussions? And that to me is what is more important than the decision they come about.
Directly then, what would be the repercussions? If they throw out the BBI, what will be the political repercussions of that?
If they throw out the BBI, both of the political formations will lose heavily and gain heavily. One, the politicians as chameleons will turn out that if it has been thrown out, then William Ruto's team will be saying, we told you, we know the law. Then Baba will turn with his Azimio and say, you see, these people had not having any intention, good intention for this country. Both sides, the story sells. If they uphold the decision, William Ruto will be saying, these people have created positions for themselves, but give us power. When we take power, we will not implement this. While Baba will be saying, we told you, this is the spirit and this is the way. It is only me who knows how to implement this. So the politicians will still carry the day, whichever decision that comes out.
So there's no loser.
Politicians, there will be no loser. What will be the loser is the country. And that is why the judiciary will be looking at how do they look at the interest of Wanjiku within this decision.
How does the country lose?
The country loses, for example, on one, I'm a lawyer, and a serious lawyer for that matter.
Of course.
Can we have an executive appointing the ombudsman? Who is likely to lose? It's not the judiciary. It is the Kenyans. Two, is it really a good story, for example, the amount of money going to the counties to be stopped because of two guys fighting? The judges must come and say, really, we cannot stop money being taken to my constituents in Nyamira. Let the money go. So the judges must look outside the political shenanigans of Raila Odinga and William Ruto and see what benefits Kenyans and grant that which benefits Kenyans.
Is it possible to do so in the political dispensation that we're currently existing in? Is it possible to do so outside of those two individuals? Because it would seem as though everything has been gobbled up by what one side is saying and what the other side is saying, which comes to the other point and saying it cannot be but a competition. The only reason why this has come to the Supreme Court is because there was dissatisfaction on one side and said, look, we wanted it to be this way. You've said no. We're going to the highest court in the land to say, come on, can you then rule on this? Is it possible to do anything, even as that apex court, void of these two political figures right now, the way things are currently?
The judges know very well. Those judges, we know them. And they know very well that the decision they make is beyond the lifespan of William Ruto and Raila Odinga.
Okay.
It is also beyond the decision of the lifespan of these 7 judges. It is about the decision of this country, which has been there since creation and which will be there to the end of the world. So the decision they are making is not a decision that pleases Raila Odinga or pleases William Ruto. Is a decision about Wanjiku, and Wanjiku will be there for millions of years. The political formations that are there today are just temporal vehicles, and they are specific with selfish interest at heart. So the judges must look beyond the politics of today, appease them with one cake and give the other one with a samosa, but deal with the question of the prosperity and livelihood and future of this nation. That is why I said the judges will be wearing specs that are not limited to 2022 elections, but to the future of this nation.
Indeed.
Suppose, like you say, that they come up with, out of the 7 questions, they say 4, they disagree on 4 with the lower court, the Court of Appeal, but they agree on 3 with the Court of Appeal. Say they agree with the Court of Appeal that the president can be sued. They agree with the Court of Appeal that IEBC is the only one to determine the constituencies. They agree with the Court of Appeal that the ombudsman should not come from the executive.
Yes.
But they disagree with the Court of Appeal and say there is no basic structure in Kenya's constitution. They say the other issues that are before them, which are talking about the basic structure and the others that are political questions. Can we then head to a referendum with the same document as it is, or does it have to be rewritten?
In the judgment of such magnitude, the Supreme Court before this judgment is clothed with one jurisdiction, provision of advisory. Whenever there is a problem that the law cannot provide, the Supreme Court can provide an advisory. That advisory can be a procedural advisory, providing that these are the steps. If you want to do a referendum, this is what is to be done. The timelines are there. I expect within the judgment, those questions, those lacuna in the Elections Act, those lacuna in the statutory acts that don't have them, the Supreme Court now with finality will be providing the roadmap to a referendum. It will provide a roadmap to the creation of extra constituencies. It will provide a roadmap to the question of the gender question. How do we achieve the gender question? So it is not only the decision that BBI has won, but as lawyers, we are looking at what now the guidelines will be and what Parliament is likely to be ordered to do to breathe to life the judgment that is coming out today.
Is there a judgment that can come out of the Supreme Court that would completely render this particular BBI bill dead? For example, if they say that the president cannot initiate a referendum, a constitutional amendment process, if they say that, can we continue with this particular BBI bill?
There has been a new type of jurisprudence that started 2 years ago, where courts are finding that something is unconstitutional or something is illegal, but they give the government 3 days or 3 months or 1 year to regularize. A very good example is the NMS question. The court found out that the entity, the way it came, was illegal, but they were told, for the sake of the country, we are not going to declare NMS illegal now. Go and regularize this matter. So the Supreme Court, being alive to the reality that straight jacket judgment where you say this is illegal, regardless of the effort that has been done is counterproductive. So the Supreme Court might make a judgment, make a finding that the president did not have the legal capacity to do that. But there's a new term, judges, when you hear as the court say, however, when that has been said, then the judges are diverting from what they have found out, but they are giving a breathing space, the oxygen principle that, however, do this and this for this purpose, for the sake of the country. We expect the Supreme Court to take that direction.
Let's take a break. 28 minutes to 9. Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Where will the chips fall when the BBI is before the Supreme Court judges when they deliver their judgment? Is it a ruling or a judgment?
Judgment.
It's a judgment. The
Finality.
judgment of the Supreme Court this morning. It starts at 9 o'clock at the Supreme Court. Where will the chips fall? Lawyer Dunstan Omari is here with us and we're discussing that. We'll be back shortly after this quick break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
KTN Home welcomes you with shows that will inspire you. They are very compelling, very emotive, and even better about individuals who have a story to share. Through their stories, you get to hear of as many life experiences, learn and grow. Catch What's Your Story every Saturday at 6 p.m. Her Standards every Saturday at 4 p.m. and Everyday Woman every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. KTN Home.
The sun is coming out in Nairobi, 19 degrees. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 16. At 16 degrees, Nakuru is sunny, highs of 27 and lows of 13. We'll see lows of 14 in a rainy Nyeri at 15, highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 25 in Eldoret. It's mostly cloudy at 14, come down to lows of 13. It's raining in Mombasa in some parts at 29, highs of 32 and lows of 26. And we're looking at partly sunny conditions in Malindi at 31, going to highs of 32. Today. Kisumu is sunny at 21, highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 30 in a sunny Kakamega. Partly sunny conditions at 21 in Kampala, highs of 28, 32 will be the high in Dar es Salaam. It's mostly cloudy at 25, 18 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg, 25 will be the high and lows of 13. Lagos is mostly clear at 28, going to highs of 30 and lows of 15, and it's sunny in Kinshasa at 24, 35 will be the high today.
I like listening to you guys. You're the default radio station in my car in the morning. Even the children listen to you guys.
I agree Parliament has failed this country. And I will say it again. We have not done what we should have done.
We know in this country, the Kenya prison sector is one of the most underfunded sector.
The way it is being done and the way we're calling it Huduma Number Msema Kweli is because all records will be there. You know, there are people who are now billionaires with no history as to how they got all these assets.
Yes. Anything that the president does that is not in accord with the constitution is an illegal act. You know, he shouldn't be doing it and should be sitting here and trying to sort of guise it up.
I totally believe live transmission of results and allowing Kenyans to be able to view all these results. I believe that it will be impossible to steal elections.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, coming off Mombasa Road, we're seeing in and outbound traffic. Construction applies here. Going on to North Airport Road and out towards Outer Ring. Southern Bypass looking pretty good. You can use that as an option to get into the city. No problems here whatsoever. On Jogo Road, then going out towards Landis. So we're going to have a bit of a tight situation, but it's not crazy. It'll phase out in a short while. Rilo Dingo Way onto Gong Road and then into the city. Valley Road, Kenyatta Avenue. A bit of a hiccup here and there over the last couple of days. And then Shiromo heading out towards Wangari Maathai is building up, and it looks like it will eventually connect with the Thika Superhighway. Coming out of Westlands, Ring Road Westlands, really busy traffic here as well. Let's take a look at the Thika Superhighway, then going out towards the Allsops and Outer Ring Junction. That is still pretty busy today, looking a little bit better on Kiambu Road. Let's keep an eye on things, guys. Out of traffic in about 30 minutes or so, but we'll keep looking and see how we can make the best of it. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
All right.
94.4
Spice. Conversation continues right here on Spice FM. Lawyer Dunstan Omari is with us in the studio. This morning it's Eric and Ndu. CT is away. We are talking about the likely outcome from the Supreme Court this morning when the judges troop into the court and they deliver the judgment on this BBI case. Lawyer Omari says, they've got to balance this thing. They have got to give everybody and make everybody feel like, they went to court and they came out with something. So they are likely to say, in some cases, we agree with a court of appeal. In some cases, we disagree with the court of appeal. In some cases, they say, all right, this is a way out for this particular quagmire. But I want to come back to that question. Is there no judgment that can come out of the court today that actually renders this bill as currently drafted impossible to go to a referendum?
There can be. Remember, we are only talking of more Kenyans that we are speculating. The judges can decide to throw away everything. But the question that will be there is for whose benefit? Article 259 provides for how to interpret constitutional questions. That the article provides that in matters constitutional, try to be purposeful. Will that judgment of granting absolutely everything or throwing everything out be a proper interpretation of Article 259 that give to effect the purpose, the spirit, the interest of Kenyans? But the judges are not bound by our feelings. Remember, the judges are not bound by anybody's arguments or anybody's emotional or political subjectivity. The judges can decide that the law must be followed as the law is and find out that this is wrong, throw it out. This is right, throw it out. We'll only remain to discuss the further implication when we teach at the law school what the judgment is all about.
Is it not likely also that the judges could look at the general, like you said, public interest? This constitution has one owner, and that is the citizen of Kenya, we the people. So look at it and see what is likely to be in the best interest of the owner of the constitution at this particular case, and say throw away everything. Throwing away everything protects the constitution at this particular point, takes everybody back to the drawing board, opens up the conversation. Are you ready to amend your constitution as a Kenyan? And what route do you want to use in amending that constitution? And by so doing, they also set that jurisprudence of this is a route to take in when you want to amend a constitution. You agree that there's a basic principle. You agree if it's a popular initiative, this is how it starts and this is how it ends. If it's a parliamentary initiative, this is how you go. You agree on the role of the IEBC in this process. All those things.
The judges know the pressure that they have been put into. Let me tell you, these guys have not been sleeping. From the day the animal moved from the lower court, it came to the Court of Appeal, the judges at the Supreme Court were saying, oh my God, I hope nobody appeals to this matter.
Yeah.
History for millions of years, my decision will be quoted or criticized.
Yep.
The judges, knowing that burden, might decide to play the best game ever that no team in the Premier League has ever played. Say, we do not own this constitution. On the 9th of August, put all these questions to the owners. Increase the ballot from 6 to 7. Put the question of a referendum. Let the Kenyans decide. Because this is not a legal question. This is not a judge's question. As we have said, go to the referendum and deal with it. That will be the masterstroke. And that one, I'm very definite that the judges are going to use that approach and say, okay, but we will provide the guidelines on what is supposed to be incorporated before that question is presented to the referendum. So that is the likely scenario that Kenyans brave for a question of the referendum on this.
A seventh ballot.
If there are timelines that cannot be met, for example, some guidelines that need to be implemented for ukarabati fanywe kwa BBI for the referendum, and that is why I said the judges might say, we have done it fast. We moved the election of 2013 from August to December, and the argument was school calendar. Let us push these elections to December to allow students do their exam, and also the BBI proponents incorporate these arguments, and that now goes to Parliament, for Parliament to pass it, then it goes to a referendum. So there's a possibility that the judges might, one, stop the elections of 9th, but order for a referendum and give a new date that will incorporate a proper referendum that meets what the guidelines or what the threshold that they'll put in.
Okay. What repercussions would we be looking at? Circumstantial, because since we're coloring within the lines of speculation here, and if that would happen, what would it look like? Because essentially what you're telling the people, if that would be the judgment, which is final, what you're telling the people is, all right, all this talk that we've had for the last 1.5 years, now you decide whether you want these changes to take place in the constitution that is yours. What would be the repercussions of such?
The winner will be the Kenyan. Because the Kenyan has been told, this is your document. Give us how you want us to govern you. That cannot be us. Give us whether you want a judiciary ombudsman appointed by the executive. It is you. The judiciary does not belong to the judiciary. It belongs to the Kenyans. Remember, Article 2 creates the preamble of the Constitution under Article 1. We, the people, are the sovereign. Tell us how the sovereign you want us to be governed. That is likely to be the only escape route for the judiciary to avoid the backlash. Remember what happened in 2013 when Raila Odinga's affidavit, Justice the Mutunga and the others rejected. To date, that question, the Supreme Court has never come out of it. I suppose you allowed that affidavit. Could the decision be the same way? So I'm saying, the judiciary is saying, these questions are weighty. These questions, you people decide. And definitely, we are going to have a referendum, and the people decide. To me, what I'm not sure is which date that referendum will be. Will it be in August or will it be in July? But the final decider will not be the judiciary. Even if they give 4 to 3,
they will throw that thing back.
They will throw
people.
it back to the citizens. For me, you know, my decision, even if I'm one, I need to be heard. Article 10 of the Constitution, we need to be heard.
Remind me, Dunstan, what came out of the previous application on the number of questions in the referendum in this particular case?
The questions were very many.
I'm speaking about the specific application, whether because you're seeking to amend the constitution in 72 or 70 what different ways, should you have 74 different ways, different questions at the referendum, or should it just be one yes or no that you accept everything and or reject everything?
The question that was presented by the two parties is one, there's the people of Raila Odinga and team were saying you only need one question, yes or no. The other side is saying there are more than 72 questions of amendments of articles. We need to vote for each and item that is there. The Supreme Court, that must be decided by them, whether they like it or not. They cannot run away. If they are saying every question should be put as a question to the voters, then we have 6 elective posts and 72 questions
on
to
the
be
referendum.
on the referendum. So the people are asking if the question there is, should lawyers wear wigs? It must be there.
Yes or no?
On a ballot, Dunstan.
That's what I'm saying. If they agree that each question needs the Kenyans' input, then that will be in the ballot. Is it logistically possible?
Oh, come on.
It can't. Will they say each referendum will only have one question? Reduce the BBI to only one question, or deal with one question, so that we have 72 referendums spread in the next 30 years. For each question, a referendum of its own. I think it is going to be a serious question that definitely the judges have got to provide leadership.
Not all the 72 questions, though, require a referendum.
Those are administrative.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court can say, matters specific to a referendum, we have identified there are 4. Only 4 questions. Others are administrative questions. You go to Parliament, deal with them, take them to the cabinet, draft policies and deal with that. So the Supreme Court is going to bring out bear, and that's why I said they will have to provide a roadmap on every issue, the nitty-gritty. But the term, however, they can say we have identified 10 constitutional questions for the referendum. You have been given 2 weeks. Rephrase them through a mutual agreement. Remember, William was saying we were never consulted. Baba is saying we consulted you, you refused. We don't need you. The Supreme Court can order for a constituent assembly to be constituted at Kasarani Stadium within 2 days for them to raise only one question to be in the ballot.
But Dunstan, here we are talking about petitioners who've raised an issue, right, against the constitution of the BBI itself. We are not looking at a political competition here. So who would come together to the table to say essentially, here, come and fix this thing? Who would come together here? The petitioners and the BBI secretariat?
The people of Kenya.
The people of Kenya, represented by whom?
If the leaders cannot provide leadership the way they have never provided, they pretend that they provide leadership on my behalf when they are selfishly moving their own agenda, the Supreme Court can decide that the threshold to be met for a referendum question is this. If there is no participation on both sides, that question can go to a referendum. That's why I said, if at the time when I was looking at the appointment of the popes in Vatican, you are told get into that room. Don't come out, no food, no water, until there is white smoke. The Supreme Court can put parameters that will outfox these political protagonists for the sake of the country. Or it can defer that question to when the two people are not there. So really these are the medical practitioners we are expecting today to give us the treatment of the patient who is either dying today or will be alive. But the judges will not allow Kenyans to die today.
They could tell us they're the mortician.
They will. No. Kenyans, not morticians.
Patient arrived at our depot already dead.
No. The Supreme Court will revive the patient.
On the issue of a constituent assembly, though, and I mean, that has always been my argument, first of all, that this process needed to get to a point. Yashpal Gai taught us that the people make a constitution and then they sit and discuss amongst themselves as the people and they agree on what goes to the referendum. If the judges said, all right, so take a step back, take several steps back, make this a popular initiative, and because there are very many amendments, have a constituent assembly, how would that happen? Would we say that forget everything, okay, you can use that as a reference document, what came out of the BBI task force is just a reference document, but then you're starting the process afresh, where you're saying that this is how we are going to amend our constitution as a people. Maybe Dennis Wawero and Junet Mohammed, who call themselves the promoters of this amendment, say, we are calling on Kenyans to come together so that we can go to Bomas and have this conversation for a week.
That is a possibility. To bring down the temperatures that are there. If the judges are going to say the final decider is a referendum and put a rider that referendum can only be done if this document is subjected to a constituent assembly, the proponents and opponents will be forced into the negotiating table. Already now, Raila Odinga was using it to bar William Ruto from even appearing near the ballot of 2022. William Ruto was opposing it to ensure that Baba does not even at all get the mileage. Today, the two coalitions the people, William Ruto and Baba, have gone through parliament. They have created.
Isn't it unfortunate, though, that we're looking at this judicial process and we're calling it a political one? That it has become political, and then we're now saying that two sides are sparring. Meanwhile, we're looking at fundamental issues that deal with the constitutionality of the nation. Those are the issues that we're talking about. The increment of constituencies around the country, a judiciary ombudsman. We are talking about whether the president can actually come and change things. But here we are, and we've turned it into a political conversation, two sides being pitted against another.
The sadness, and this is the sadness, is only the politics. That it's politics that deliver constitutions. It is politics that delivers the law. It's politics that delivers the economy. Everything is politics. The only problem Kenyans we have is that we do not see proper politics for the benefit of this country. And that is why I'm saying constitutional making process is a political process that is governed and moved by the citizens. Legal processes is a constitutional process that emanates from a member of parliament being elected to go to parliament to make a law, and we use it in court. We cannot completely move away from the political agenda. And one of the questions before the judges today is, what is the role of the head of politics, the head of state?
Yeah.
President Uhuru Kenyatta is the substantive head of politics in this country, hidden in the term head of state. You become a head of state virtually by virtue of political activism. So in my own view, the judges are likely to compel a constituent process governed either by an entity created by the judges to deal with the questions and say, submit to this organ your proposals within 2 weeks. Let us have it manage this process, because courts worldwide have powers to supervise their judgments. Because it will be academic for them to give a judgment that cannot be implemented. As I've said, these judges want to leave a legacy. When they are dead, 100 years to come, they will be remembered as people who brought the good of the country first. But
there's also legal jurisprudence here.
The legal jurisprudence is also going to be brought up.
For instance, if they, for example, say that there is no basic structure in this constitution, that stands for a very long time.
Yes.
If they say there is basic structure in the constitution, it stands for a very long time. So they've got to, here they can't look at the politics of Baba and William. They've got to look at what exactly are we saying going forward with regards to a constitution that belongs to the people of Kenya. Does it have a basic structure, or does it not have a basic structure? And they will be quoted not just in the country, but the entire Commonwealth and the world.
This question about the basic structure, they have got to look at the basic structure concept in relation to the 5th and 100 generations to come. The decision of the Supreme Court cannot be challenged anywhere. It can only be quoted in other jurisdictions. The Kenyan courts are bound by it. You cannot deal with the decision of the Supreme Court. So that is why the judges will have to think, how do they navigate that question? It is not a simple matter that you easily say, you are right, you are wrong. It is a decision that is going to be there a million years. One question. If you say there is no basic structure, or if you say you cannot amend these things, then they will have to say there exists a basic structure, but create a way to amend it. Because the generations that are coming 100 years, they are going to be different generations that will not be respecting the value systems that we have today. If we are blocking that they cannot amend, they must live the way we are living today, those guys will revolt and carry guns, because once the law becomes so rigid,
they'll overthrow the law.
They'll overthrow the law.
As we conclude, Wakili, is there a likelihood that the outcome of today's judgment is actually going to shield these 7 judges from politics? From looking at them and saying, aha, this is how Joe Kindongo voted on this particular matter. And we all know. Is it possible for us to not actually look at them that way and just see that these are judges? They are looking at what is presented before them and considering what's in the best interest of the country.
Supreme Court judges worldwide are not appointed competitively the way we do here. That you apply for a job, it is advertised, you go for interview, you get a job. Supreme Court judges are appointed based on their known philosophy. They are either conservatives or they are liberals. So that is why in the US and all over, already people know, they count how many judges are there. Those are conservatives, 4. Those are 3. We've lost. This jurisprudence is developing. If today the 7 judges sit there, Kenyans will tell you, here, ile kabila yake ni ule anatoka wapi, jina yake ni nani, ule ameolewa wapi. So that can never go away. And the 7 judges, I'm told they are watching this and listening to this very critically, should not fear that stigma. It will be there. They will be called names. They will be told what they have done. They'll be told they have been bribed. But I am urging the judges to forget about those because they'll not stop it. Even if they come and ask, like Pilato said, Kenyans, what do you want? Our judgment is here. This guy is innocent. What do you want? No. We want him free. Jesus to be sacrificed. Still, those judges were blamed. So we expect the 7 judges to stand with the rule of law, to stand firm and stand their judgment for the sake of this country.
Asante sana. Lawyer Dunstan Omari, advocate of the High Court of Kenya, he's been here this morning just doing a quick one, a quick one on the matter that's before the Supreme Court. Thank you very much for joining us. Join us again next time. And thank you to everybody who's been watching us on KTN Home. The conversations continue on SpiceFM. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. All eyes are now on the Supreme Court, where 7 judges led by Chief Justice Martha Koome are expected to give their verdict on the BBI, which was dismissed by the Court of Appeal on August 25th last year after being declared unconstitutional. CJ Martha Koome will be accompanied by Deputy CJ Philomena Mwilu, Supreme Court Judges Mohammed Ibrahim, Smoky Wanjala, and Joaquin Dungu, and Isaac Linaola. An appeal against the Court of Appeal's verdict on the BBI at the Supreme Court was filed by the electoral agency IEBC, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Attorney General Kihara Kariuki. The Attorney General focused his objectives and objections on the decision on the basic structure and the steps that should be taken to amend the Constitution after the Court of Appeal ruled that the Kenyan Constitution had a fundamental basic structure. Lawyers from the AG's office, in conjunction with President Kenyatta's lawyers, opposed the decision that the President could not institute the exercise of amending the Constitution and further opposed the decision that the head of state could be prosecuted. Meanwhile, the IEBC wants the court to find fault with the decision that it lacked quorum to make some key decisions surrounding the BBI process. IEBC lawyer Professor Githa Mugai highlights the risk that comes with the decision, arguing that it would affect the Commission's previous activities. Newswire and Standard Media Group are camping at the Supreme Court, and we will bring you the latest from the corridors of justice. Now, Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria has threatened to drag the Supreme Court into his misconduct case before the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission after the electoral agency resolved to slot the matter for a full hearing. The lawmaker, who objected the full hearing, now scheduled for April 7th, defended himself from accusations of wrongdoing following his vote-rigging claims. Kuria is being interrogated by the Commission's Electoral Code of Conduct Enforcement Committee following his remarks, which he made on March 15th, suggesting that the 2013 and 2017 general elections were rigged in favor of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, the Nairobi Metropolitan Services Director General Mohammed Badi has denied authorizing evictions in Pumwani and Isli estates owned by the Nairobi City County, saying NMS officers who participated in the raids did so without his approval. Badi made the statement when he appeared before the Senate Devolution and Intergovernmental Committee. He said the evictions were enforced by the Nairobi Regional Security Committee, supervised by Principal Secretary Karanja Kibisho under the auspices of the Minister of Interior and Coordination of National Government. Badi denied having received court orders enforcing the evictions after it emerged a private developer secured the same. Now, Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutimbai has appealed against 500,000 shillings penalty imposed on him by the Senate Devolution Committee for failure to honor summons. In a letter addressed to the clerk of the Senate, Jeremiah Nyeri, Mutimbai apologized, noting that his failure to appear before the committee was not in bad faith. The Inspector General was summoned by the committee to explain why police officers were used in the illegal eviction of residents in Pumwani and Isli. Mutimbai argued that gathering of relevant facts to issue comprehensive report on evictions from the Minister of Interior and Coordination took longer than anticipated. Further, he blamed his assistant for misinforming him on the slated dates to appear before the Homa Bay Senator Moses Kajwang-led committee. Now, the Ministry of Health has announced that it will ban the use of feeding bottles on May 28th. The Chief Nutritionist Officer at the Nairobi Metropolitan City Services, Esther Mugusu, said the bottles, which also contain pacifiers, are more harmful than beneficial. They are made of silicone material that does not match the breast and therefore confuses babies, making others refuse to suck their mother's breasts. It has also been found to cause some ear problems due to sucking a device that does not contain milk, thus affecting the ear canal. And the suspected killers of a 3-year-old baby whose body was found dumped at the Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital in Nairobi last month have been arrested. Baby David, whose story hit the interwebs, eliciting anger from members of the public, is said to have been under the care of a woman identified as Phyllis Nyeri alongside his 6-year-old brother. Detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations have since established that the boy was killed at Nyeri and her husband Jackson Ngui's home in Kwamaji as his brother watched. Nyeri and her husband were arrested at Ilasit village, Kajiado County, close to the Kenya-Tanzania border, where they had reportedly gone to hide. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM.
After 9 o'clock, and it looks like there's still traffic in the city this morning, specifically looking at that Chiromo stretch heading out towards Wangari Maathai Way. On the Thika Superhighway, not so much better. Still quite some heading past Survey out into the city at the Pagani Underpass, Muthaiga Square. That little nexus of drama is traffic galore, and it's bumper to bumper. So it's going to take you some time to get out in the city from there. Waiguru Way looking a little bit better now. Not to forget, you can use the Red Hill Link Road to get out of that. On Mombasa Road, also traffic has significantly reduced. So we'll be coming out of traffic hour soon enough. Langata Road also not looking so bad either. Let's take a look in about half hour, see what has happened. But it looks like we've done well this morning. Let's keep it up. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there. Text for 0127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation
Good morning
Room.
and thank you
the
very much
only
for
way
keeping
to
it
start
locked
your
on
day.
SpiceFM around the country. 94.4 in Nairobi, 97.7 in Malindi, 90.9 in Nyeri, 96.0 Nakuru, 96.7 Eldoret, 87.9 in Mombasa, or 102.5 in Kisumu. We're also live streaming the show on YouTube and Facebook. SpiceFM KE is the channel on YouTube and the page on Facebook. The conversations continue to the next hour. This one, now we want to talk about the East African community. We know we have some 90 million people or thereabouts who've joined the East African community, and these are the citizens of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So to have that conversation with us, we have a guest in the studio, Edgar Odari. Before we introduce him, the day's proverb. A diamond's father is coal, yet it regards itself as upper class. A diamond's father is coal, yet it regards itself as upper class. Mimi, I am not as black and dirty as that thing that you're calling my father. I'm a shiny little thing, and everybody wants me. Okay? That's the difference. Edgar Odari, thank you very much for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to the Situation Room.
Yes.
Welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you.
You are the executive director of Eco News Africa.
Yes.
What is Eco News Africa?
Well, Eco News Africa is a Pan-African organization that works to bridge the gap in terms of information, in terms of global processes and local action. So what we basically do is we look at global processes that are happening, including trade and investment, finance, climate change, and we try to simplify that information for our stakeholders for them to be able to take concrete action from that point. Yes.
So in what sectors?
So we work on trade and investment. Okay. We work on finance and development. We work on environment and sustainability.
Okay.
Yes.
So on the matter, for example, of trade within the East African bloc.
Yes.
How have you been involved?
So we have been working very closely with legislatures like the East African Legislative Assembly. We work very closely with the East African Community Secretariat in terms of if there are processes that are ongoing at that level. We try to interpret them for our stakeholders. So, for example, let me give you an example. How would a farmer, for example, be affected by a trade agreement that is signed at that level? And how can they be able to come in at that point to be able to understand what they can be able to do as an individual?
Okay.
Yes, that's what we do.
Right.
Yes.
This proposal, this invitation, and the final agreement has been a long time coming.
Yes.
And I guess as you look at legislation on a regional level, it would make sense when you're looking at policy and things like that.
Yes.
But for folks on the outside, why would it take so long? And what are the nitty-gritty that then had to be taken into consideration for, say, look, we're in the same region. Why wouldn't we just invite and then we join and then we move on with the business?
It's not that easy.
There you go.
It's not that easy because there are a number of steps that have to be taken before a country becomes a member of the East African community. If you remember, in 2007, there was Rwanda and Burundi who joined.
Yes. Yep.
Then in 2016, let me give you the clearest example. South Sudan applied to join in 2011.
Okay.
But they did not join until 2016. It
5
takes
years.
time. Yes, it takes time for countries. You know, there are a number of steps that a country has to take in terms of domesticating regional instruments at local level, and being able to basically ratify most of the East African community documents at local level.
Right.
And aside from that, they also have to implement a number of policies at national level to be able to be in conformity with the requirement to now join officially the East African community.
What is a procedure for joining a country joining the East African community? Must they apply, or can they be approached?
They can apply and they can be approached.
Okay.
Let me give you an example. In a while back, Sudan, the Republic of Sudan, that is not Sudan, they applied to join.
Yeah.
But then the application was rejected because they had bad relationships with South Sudan and Uganda.
Okay.
Now, DRC was approached by Tanzania. Tanzania is the one that proposed that DRC joins.
Okay.
So that's a bit different. It can work either way. Yes.
So Tanzania approached DRC and
Yes.
said, you can join
You
us.
can join, yes.
But then DRC had to make their formal application.
Yes, they had to make the formal application.
Okay.
Then it has to be discussed at the summit level. The summit is basically the heads of state and government in the EAC. They discuss that issue at that level, and then they proceed from that point.
Because in this particular case, we're talking about DRC formally applying in 2019.
Yes.
And then the procedures then kicked in, like you're saying.
Yes.
So the summit sits and says, yeah, we can consider the application.
Yes.
And then they're given a raft
of issues
to do.
Yes.
And they have to start, for example, implementing and changing their own domestic laws.
Yes.
Before they are formally allowed to join.
Yes.
Is it possible that they could start domesticating some of these East African laws, and then at some point the summit decides, you guys, we don't want you anymore?
Well,
after they have started the journey.
Well, I think the amount of goodwill that is there in this process, you are unlikely to face such a situation. But it's possible. It's entirely possible. For example, if you have a country that doesn't meet the spirit of the EAC in terms of, let's say, a country before joining starts wars or that kind of thing, that can be an impediment to them joining the community. Yes.
Okay.
What is that thing that is so attractive with the East African community? What's good about the East African community?
Well, the first thing is the market. You're talking about 185 million people who are... So for a business entity, that's a ready market of consumers. Now, can you imagine you add 90 million to that fray? How does that market look like? So if a company was targeting 185 million consumers, it is now targeting 280 consumers at the same level. Then the other thing is it also covers the country in terms of being able to increase its ability to negotiate. In negotiating as one country, as opposed to negotiating as one region. And I don't think people have realized the significance of what the East African community has, the potential it has in terms of what it's possibly able to do. Once that is realized, there's discussion, there are 4 steps in terms of the integration process. And the last step is the political federation. If we get to a point where we are discussing the possibility of having a political federation in the name of the East African community, that is going to be a game changer. A real game changer, by the way. Yes.
So there are 4.
Yes.
What are those 4?
So you start with customs union. After the customs union, you go to the common market.
Yep.
After you finish the common market, you go to the monetary union. Then after you finish the monetary union, the last step is the political federation.
How far are we? In which step?
Well, we've had a lot of false starts. Because the implementation has not been consistent.
Yeah.
So countries come, they make this decision, they move back again. But what was decided was they were going to fast track the political federation. And that was decided at some point. The committee was formed somewhere in 2018. They sat and they were supposed to complete discussions by 2021. And the whole idea was that a constitution will be released and will be a federation by 2023. But based on what we are seeing in reality, it's not likely that we'll have a political federation by 2023. But that could be a game changer. Let me just give you a bit of facts about it. If we become a political federation, we will be the 4th largest country in the world.
By population
by population.
By population or by geographic size?
By geographic size will be the 4th largest, yes, by population. And then 4th largest by size.
By geographic
size. Then I think 3rd largest by population. And that is something significant, by the way. It gives you power to negotiate. And if you look at the amount of natural resources endowment, for example, and you're negotiating, this is the first chance that the continent has to talk about a superpower, if it is well managed. Yes.
Okay. But if we're having this discussion from an international relations point of view, we
Yes.
cannot run away from the importance of regional blocks.
Yes.
Regional blocks that come together who definitely have similarities, whether it is because of their geographical location or language. Can't run away from that either,
Yes.
in terms of
Yes.
its importance when it comes to things like trade
Yes.
and such.
Yes.
Now, do these take into consideration where countries are developmentally? And has that taken that into consideration today? One of the cries has been DRC, easily one of the richest nations on the planet by way of natural resource,
Yes.
right? But what is happening in terms of developmental stage, in terms of governance and infrastructure and such, is another question.
Yes.
Is a regional bloc measured by the strength of its individual members? And if that is happening, can you then say we're getting to the point of game-changing circumstance?
Yes.
If countries are struggling, can you say them coming together to form a regional or to be part of a regional bloc will then be able to help one forge ahead in the ways in which you're talking about now?
Yes, I think it's a good thing because regional cooperation also helps. Part of the reason why you see instability is because of the suspicion that countries have for each other.
Of each other.
But then when you get into a regional bloc, most of that suspicion is taken away because you're now cooperating. You're working as individuals who are cooperating on various aspects as opposed to individuals who are competing in the essence of it. That's number one. Then number two, I think one of the things that happens is the East African community countries actually take into account the fact that a country has not developed to a certain degree. And that is why when Rwanda and Burundi came in, they were given a slower track in terms of trying to implement the customs union protocol so that you don't open up everything immediately. You open up based on the fact that you are a bit slower given your market conditions. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, with the DRC coming in,
Yes.
and you said, it's interesting because on the invitation of other countries,
Yes.
come and let us do this together.
Yes.
What is taken into consideration? Sure, there is the regional, camaraderie. There is the whole brotherhood of nations. Let's do this together.
Yes.
But are other things taken into consideration as well? Where is the country at the moment? What is the feel of the people who, by the way, are being used as a bargaining chip here?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
90 million people, they will come into this block. Here's an opportunity for increased trade. Is their situation being regarded, or is it just a thing of governments agreeing, heads of state agreeing, and all the other protocol?
That is one of the challenges we have had with the integration process in the East African community. So if you read the treaty, it tells you a market-led approach. But then the challenge with that is that you do not have the people with you. So you're integrating markets, you're integrating countries, but that is happening at the political leadership level. If you talk to the citizens at that level, they do not have that willingness or that openness in terms of getting into. And this has been the challenge, especially if you look at Tanzania, for example. If you go to Kenya, if you go to Tanzania when you're a Kenyan, they read you from a mile away. And, there's been hostility, outright hostility in terms of we do not want these guys to get here because the first thing they'll come here, they'll start looking for land and be able to grab everything that comes in their way. Yes. So we do not have a people-centric integration. Most of it is led by market demands. And that is a challenge that we are trying to do in terms of trying to get citizens on board to be able to be part of this conversation and this journey. Yes.
So for the people of the DRC,
yes,
are they seeing the benefit of joining the East African community?
Yes. There are benefits. The question is, I'm not sure if there has been sufficient participation of the public to be able to get them to get a sense of what they're going to be doing. But for them, number one, they're going to see good, like immediate tangible benefits. So, for example, food supply in DRC is a problem. And they do not have, some of the products actually come from Europe. So this is going to be eased in the sense that they're going to be getting products coming from right across the neighbors to be able to satisfy the demand that they have. That's number one. Number two, they'll have a free hand to move across the region in terms of being able to trade and being able to do things with them. But then number three, there's that solidarity that comes with, when it comes to peace building, DRC is a country that has been torn by conflicts for a very long time. So it's going to have a situation where you're going to be having people coming on board in terms of, in case there's any conflict, you're going to have mediation efforts coming from the East African community level to be able to address those issues. So, for example, Rwanda has been accused over a long time of fomenting conflict in the DRC. This is a chance maybe to sit on the table and say, hey, Rwanda guys, why can't you come on the table and just basically talk with these guys and avoid getting into their space? That kind of thing. Yeah.
Let's cross over into the DRC, into Kinshasa, where we are joined by a professor of economics, Professor Dadi Saleh. Prof, a very good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
It's good to have you on the show. Welcome to the Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We're having a conversation with everybody in the studio. Here is Eric Latiff, Okoh, and our guest Edgar Odari. So the DRC is now a part of the East African community. What's the feeling like in DRC? Is it a happy feeling or is it a feeling of trepidation?
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. I think from the point of view of the government, we seem to be good, okay? And at a short run, it's a good thing because, as someone just said, the trade going to improve and the movement of people will be a bit free. This is a fact. But if we consider the bottom of the question, I think, economically speaking, the Congolese industry is losing right now because we are actually importing almost everything. We are just taking things from outside. Our industry is low from the average of our neighbors, for example, Kenya or even Uganda and Rwanda. We don't produce almost anything. We are just exporting raw materials, isn't it? But we are importing everything, even food, even some few things for our daily living. It means normally at this moment we are trying to improve our local industry and get to a good average. Unfortunately, with this integration to this Eastern African community, then our industry, our local industry, gonna just die because we won't be able to do this kind of competition, because we're gonna produce at the highest level. Our budget doesn't allow to our industry to be competitive. It means for me, at the long run, Congolese industry gonna just die because of this integration. I think it's too early for Congo to integrate this Eastern African community. Obviously, I'm actually a Pan-Africanist. Okay, I know it's good that we be together, but in the economic side, this is really bad. And I think the point of view of most of Congolese people, not the political one, is really bad. Even if some traders, we're going to be a bit happy. At the short run, they will trade a bit better. This is a fact. But I'm talking about the industry, local industry, which is going to really die.
Prof, if I may ask you, currently you say that, there's basically minimal industrial development in DRC. You're importing almost everything that is processed. From which countries are you importing?
Yeah, most of the time we are importing from China, we are importing from Kenya, we are importing from Uganda, from Rwanda, from everywhere, from Dubai. China is the biggest one right now. This is a fact that we are also importing from Kenya and Rwanda. If you take, for example, Jews, most of the Jews we are having in Goma, most of the time at the eastern part of DRC, it's coming from from Kenya and from Uganda. This is a fact right now. Yeah, that's the situation.
With everything that's coming from China, Prof, it passes through the port, either the port of Mombasa or the port of Dar es Salaam.
Mm-hmm.
Is there no added cost because of the tariffs at these ports?
Can you repeat the question, please?
With the goods being imported through the ports of Dar es Salaam or Mombasa, there's an extra tariff because you're not members of the East African community for the goods to reach the DRC. Is this not an advantage when you join the EAC and then that tariff is reduced?
Yeah, actually, it's an advantage, and that's an advantage for consumers. Mm-hmm. And as you know, the biggest value comes from production, not from importing or consuming. No. If you produce and you export, then you have the biggest value or added value, as we are saying, isn't it? It means I can understand there are some few advantages that compare to what Congolese industry gonna lose. That's the biggest question. It means our industry gonna die. Instead of improving our local industry, okay, obviously we can improve trading and got more advantages and benefits. And those gonna make our industry die again because we won't need again to produce because we import at the lowest cost. That's exactly the point. It means I'm trying to say Congo should first of all keep and protect the local industry instead of protecting trade. That's only the question.
Sally, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. If I can just ask you, though, I hear what you're saying on that. But we are looking at a situation whereby then the call is on governance from Kinshasa to say that we're either going to establish or protect local industry, right? Is there a possibility that these two things could happen simultaneously? To say that, yes, we're interested in making sure that we are ramping up efforts of industry and manufacturing in the country, but at the same time, we want to be part of a regional bloc whereby it will be advantageous to the DRC as well to be able to be part of this, looking at the lowering of tariffs, looking at the lowering of cost of telecommunication, looking at the easier passage of people from one place to another. The benefits seem to be quite great, and then would not the responsibility not be on government to let the people know that this is actually advantageous?
No, unfortunately, ma'am. I understand. As I said before, there are advantages. Okay, you can move freely, we can communicate a bit freely, we can have those importation activities. This is a fact. But if you do some statistics, okay, compare to production. I'm talking about industry, production. That's only where you'll find that the advantage is really minimum to get into the Eastern African community right now. And I'm free of speaking on my side. I'm just a technician, a professor right now. But political people at this moment, I know they have so many teeth. Okay, especially our government is with the Kenyan government, the Rwandan government, the Ugandan government. I think we are negotiating in a bad position. Our government is negotiating in a bad position. You follow, for example, Ruto, your vice president. Okay, your vice president said exactly the truth, even if he has been condemned by people. He said the truth. Because the only thing is, Congo is one of the biggest markets in Eastern Africa. Then you're gonna throw, okay, everything you're producing in Kenya. And the president of Tanzania said the same. That's exactly the point, ma'am. So saying that there are advantages, I'm okay. Okay, we have advantages. But if you go deep in economics, a country like Congo, which doesn't produce anything and get into the Eastern African community where you have some other people with advantages. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, I think I agree with Prof. One of the key things, one of the challenges that we've been having with integration processes in the East African community is that you admit a country without taking it through the motions in terms of looking at the market economy and how it's faring on. I'll give you an example. In 2007, we admitted Rwanda and Burundi. Their markets were not that developed. Rwanda, a bit better, but Burundi was in a bad state. But they said, let's admit. Then we move on and get to a point where South Sudan wanted to come on board. No one looked at the market conditions in South Sudan. But because it's a huge potential market for the countries in the EAC, they say, let's open up that market. And that mistake has happened before. If you look at Europe and what happened in Greece, the other economies were being admitted without looking at the market conditions, whether they've been able to satisfy certain policy and legislative demands. So without implementing these policies, and you admit them without having gone through that motion in terms of trying to implement those policies, you admit a country that is not ready for integration. Then when the country starts suffering in terms of what went on in Greece, then you start seeing, of course, now it will be one country benefiting. In this case, Kenya, for example. Kenya will benefit, the other countries will not benefit, and then you start seeing that kind of animosity that exists between the countries.
So what Prof, is the same thing that Edgar is saying. If you were the president of DRC, you're saying this is not the right time for the DRC to join the EAC. What would be the right time for DRC to join EAC?
Okay, before I respond to that question, let me put across something what you just said about Burundi and Rwanda, for instance. Okay, let me tell you the truth. That's theory, but in practice, we have more than 2 years. There is no trade. Between Rwanda and Burundi, because Burundi just understood that it couldn't just take everything from Rwanda. It could destroy its local industry. Reason why, whatever you are saying, they are into the Eastern African community. I think you have informed that there are 2-3 years they don't have any trade. I think you're informed, isn't it? Because they have understood that they did a bad deal. It was a bad deal for Burundi. Yeah, that's the right thing on the ground, not theoretically speaking. Now, if I was the president, first of all, what I could do is to get a budget and facilitate local industry. Maybe it can take 1 year because Congo has the potential. This is really fast. If it takes 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, I don't know. It will depend about our political
environment
on industry. Environment. It means if we are able at least to have 1 product or 2 products and 3 products to offer to Kenya and Rwanda and Tanzania, because normally, economically speaking, this should be a deal of receiving and giving. Okay, it cannot be a deal of just receiving. It cannot be explained in an economical side. No, it's not impossible. You can not just receive, receiving. Economically speaking, this as I'm saying, Congo is big, and we have raw resources. It means normally we should also have some good industry and be able to offer, as you are saying in Europe. Okay, Italy can offer to France, and France can offer to Italy. When Greece gets in, we try to get a deal how also Greece can have 1 or 2 products to offer to other countries. Normally that would should be happen. Unless a country is poor of local resources. You get the point? It means they don't have a lot to offer. At that moment, they agree. And we try to think how they can survive on that deal. But not a country like Congo. We have a lot to offer. But now we won't be able to offer anything, and our local industry is going to die once and for all.
I think this
is really bad for it.
Prof, thank you very much for speaking to us. Asante sana. We wish you a very good day in DRC. Asante. Time for us to take this quick break at 24 minutes to 10. We've been having a conversation with Professor Dadi Saleh, who is joining us from the DRC. He's a professor of economics. And with us in the studio is Edgar Odari. He's the executive director of Econews Africa. He also understands matters of regional trade and regional policies that drive trade. We're talking about the East African community joining No, the Democratic Republic of Congo joining the East African Community.
East African Community.
What are the benefits both ways? What are the cons both ways? Let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you.
Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishi was asking me what channel is SpiceFM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
what
you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you. And it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero. In this,
All right, in Nairobi, light rain back now. We're seeing highs of 25 and lows of 16. Mostly sunny conditions at 20 in Nakuru, highs of 27 and lows of 13. And it's also raining in Nyeri at 18, highs of 24 and lows of 16. Eldoret, mostly cloudy at 20, highs of 25 and lows of 13. And we're looking at light rain in Mombasa at 29, highs of 32 and lows of 26. Malindi is partly sunny at 32. That'll be the high for today, going to lows of 27. Partly sunny conditions at 24 in Kisumu with highs of 29. We'll see lows of 19, and it's sunny as well in Kakamega. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 15. In Kampala, it's sunny at 26. 28 will be the high and lows of 20, while it's raining in Dar es Salaam. We're going to highs of 32 and lows of 25. 19 and sunny in Johannesburg. 25 will be the high and lows of 13, while it's partly sunny in Lagos at 28. We'll see highs of 34. We'll also see highs of 35 in Kinshasa, where it's cloudy at 24. 15 degrees and sunny out in Beijing. We'll see lows of -1, and it's mostly cloudy. Snow, ice still in Paris. Highs of 8 and lows of 2. Sunny conditions at 2 in London. Highs of 7. And coming into Thursday, New York is mostly cloudy at 8 degrees. It'll go to highs of 18.
Spice up your life.
Looking much better in most parts of the city today. Just a little bit here and there on the Uhuru Highway getting out into the city. And it still continues right around the train station at Makadara on Jogo Road. Lunga a little bit out and inbound. But most of the traffic that we saw causing problems earlier is much better. Thicker superhighway, ebbing and flowing here and there. It's building and slowing on Kiambu Road as well. That's still there for a while. And we're also looking at coming out of Westlands on towards Chiromo. Ring Road Westlands out towards Wangari Maathai. That still continues for some time, but we'll be out of traffic hour in good time. One can hope. Let's text or tweet SpiceFM KE 40127.
Business news on Spice FM.
Good morning. I am Stephanie Wangari. Kenyans should brace for tough times ahead after Central Bank of Kenya Governor Patrick Njoroge hinted that the fuel subsidy program might be cut. Njoroge, who was speaking to journalists, said he expects the subsidy, which has shielded motorists from the spike in the price of petroleum products, to stay with the government, picking up a significant burden. He, however, noted that there may be some adjustments. Currently, a litre of petrol is retailing at a record 131 shillings and 63 cents in Nairobi. Without the fuel subsidy, the pump prices would be above 150 shillings per litre. The Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority says uncollected funds and assets in the last 3 years has risen by 2.7 billion shillings. The agency has consequently advised Kenyans to seek guidance through its website, ufa.go.ke, on how to lodge claims. After registering on the portal, Kenyans will be directed to Huduma centres where UFA officers will assist. The total value of unclaimed assets in Kenya as of September 2020 stood at 13.3 billion shillings, which was 3.3 billion shillings rise from the 10 billion recorded in 2018. The Standard Group has organized a home expo aimed at promoting developments in the real estate sector. The expo that starts tomorrow to Saturday at the Kenyatta International Convention Center is free to the public. It has been organized by the Standard Group and its partners and is the first property expo this year, coming in soon after disruptions occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. The expo, dubbed Own a Home Expo, will be held in partnership with the Property Show, which airs on KTN Home. The expo will see exhibitors showcase their products and expertise in real estate, solar solutions, property finance, insurance, interior design, architecture, landscaping, water harvesting solutions, among others. The Kenya Airways has reversed pay cuts in light of signs of business recovery and MPs approving a 20 billion shillings bailout. The carrier returned pay cuts of up to 25% last month in cash preservation efforts after the Treasury delayed wiring the bailout billions. Kenya Airways chairman Michael Joseph said the airline has started paying full salaries on a day when it announced it had more than halved net losses to 15.8 billion shillings, helped by growth in revenue and some cost savings. That's all we had for business news. I'm Stephanie Wangari.
Business news, keeping you up to date on all your money matters.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
17 to 10, the
Spice
conversation continues with Eric Latiff, Okoh, and Ednah, Executive Director of Eco News Africa. We are talking about the impact of DRC joining the EAC. Edgar, you heard what the Prof was saying. I mean, there are issues that he's raising. He's saying, look, we are a net importer. We don't have industries in this country. Yes. Now, we open up to developed economies in the region that will have then freer access to our market. When shall we ever develop?
I think that can you can tinker with that through policy. One of the things that you do when you're signing that agreement, there are instruments you use to protect infant industries. So you can be able to use that policy instrument and say, let's grow our industries up to this point. So we are not, maybe you can, there's what we call sensitive sectors. They can be able to say, these sectors are sensitive for us. We are not going to open them up to liberalization.
Is that provided for in the EAC?
Yes, it's provided for. Even Kenya has done that. So milk and many other sectors have been carved off from liberalization. Okay. And they're protected in that instance. Then the second issue is once you carve out those industries and say these ones we're not going to open because we want to grow our own industries, the second issue you do is you encourage investment inward and limit where that investment is going. And the way this works is, for example, you can say we are going to allow joint ventures between foreign East African companies, other East African companies, and Congolese companies in the following sectors. And you say minimum threshold is Congolese must own maybe 50% of it.
Okay.
Then you have the likes of Bidco and whatnot going to invest in that country and building capacity, but then the Congolese own maybe 50% of those companies, and they start growing and also technology transfer in that sense.
Does it force, and I'm using force,
yes,
quite cautiously here,
yes,
but does it then force the environment to pick up and then become a productive environment in terms of industry and manufacturing? Do you see that happening? Or does it still just prolong the situation that many Congolese are complaining about today?
Well, competition is good. Competition is good because sometimes when you have inefficient industries, if you introduce other actors in this market, you force these industries to pull up their game. So that helps. But then I wouldn't call it force. It behoves them to basically act better. That's what I can say. Yes. Yes.
But then do you see it then as a catalyst to spur on the business environment? In the industrial environment.
Yes.
That if you can see the benefit, because I mean that's what it does, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
That if you are trying to venture into something and that you see somebody else in your space doing the same kind of thing, it can do one of two things: discourage you or encourage you.
Yes.
Encourage you to say, okay, you know what? We can actually do this for ourselves and our people then will be able to benefit on the long run. It doesn't necessarily cut out competition.
Yes.
But then it would foster an environment where there's homegrown industry.
Yes. It does. It does do that. You know, if you introduce, so let's say you have other players who've come in to play in the DRC market.
Yeah.
The companies will be forced to like you said, do two things. You either ship out or you shape up and decide I'm going to compete in this market. And in the long run, you're going to have effects where the inefficient producers will be taken out of the market, but most of the companies will now start competing against them and they'll improve their deliverables. Yeah.
Some of the unsaid things are the political games that are being played here.
Yes.
Where is politics playing in all of this? Because, I mean, even speaking to some, consultants who worked on this process yesterday, some of the things that they said, well, you know what? It's all well and good. Papers, agreements of heads have been made, etc.
Yes.
But the bigger game here is the politics. And until we know where the political lines are being drawn, we will not see an enactment of this income paper. What do you see playing out here that could either stall the process or not make it as authentic as it would appear to be?
It's interesting you say that. It's really interesting you say that. There was a tweet by the former presidential candidate in Uganda, Kizza Besigye, about the situation in DRC. He was saying, DRC has been admitted into the East African community, and they're already complaining, saying Rwanda is supporting, is it MRC, rebels in Eastern Congo. Then Uganda is saying now it means we need to put more boots on the ground and whatnot.
Yeah.
But then if you look at the politics in terms of extraction in the DRC, it paints a completely different picture. People get there, they say we are going for peacekeeping missions when they're actually going to mine resources and extract them out of the country. So the political games are very much alive in this context. And in all likelihood, DRC will get in. But in all likelihood, if this is not well managed, I don't know how the conflicts are going to be taken in, because at some point even Rwanda was accused of mining from Eastern Congo. So the geopolitics are really playing out there, and they might be undermining. Maybe time will tell. But in all likelihood, the politics that are played by Rwanda and Uganda are likely to undermine this integration process.
Have we seen growth in business across the East African region since, for example, the joining of South Sudan?
Yes.
Like when it opened up that market.
Yes.
Can we say that, all right, so we are seeing that the people of South Sudan are benefiting by being members of the EAC, and we are seeing these are the countries that have welcomed South Sudan also benefiting. How?
So number one is the companies that supply products into South Sudan. They have benefited by having an expanded population to consume their products. But then number two, consumers in South Sudan have really benefited, especially, it's a food insecure country, and a lot of their food is actually supplied from Uganda. So it has made it easy to supply food items from Uganda into South Sudan. And to that extent, therefore, citizens of South Sudan who consume products from across the East Africa community are benefiting in that sense. So there's benefit both ways. I wouldn't say the South Sudanese private sector has really benefited, because it's a bit infant in a sense. So to that extent, therefore, it has first stiff competition from the other East African countries, but it's still growing. So it's a mixed bag of results in a sense. Consumers benefit, private sector in the other countries benefit, but then private sector in South Sudan are not benefiting.
Of all these countries, there's 6 of them now. There's a lot of instability in many of them.
Yes.
South Sudan, there's instability. The DRC,
yes,
there's instability. There are parts of Burundi, there's instabilities, and parts of Uganda as well.
Yes.
Instability.
Yes.
How does that impact the EAC as a whole?
It actually does impact, because for you to have a successful integration process, one of the key tenets of the East African community is political stability. Now, when you have political instability, you're not going to have the free movement of goods and services across the divide.
Or economic growth.
Or economic growth, in that sense. So, you have citizens in various pockets of the East African community who are not benefiting from this integration experiment that is happening across the divide. And that is going to cause a bit of disenchantment. People are wondering, so there's this whole market you're talking about, but how am I benefiting if every day I have to worry about whether I'm going to leave the next day or not? Yes. So there are various things that are playing out there.
But then, Edgar, if we look at the 4 pillars, like you said,
yes,
of East African communities, the various integrations,
yes,
the customs union, the common market, monetary union,
yes,
and the political federation,
yes,
If we were to rate each of them,
Yes.
say customs union,
Yes.
100%, what percentage are we?
No, we are not. 100% is a bit
Where
ambitious.
are we?
I would put it at 65-70.
65-70 in terms of implementing the customs
Implementing
union.
it, yes.
And the common market?
No, don't even go there.
Really? Very far.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Countries.
The monetary union,
we've
of
not
course,
even,
zero.
We are supposed to have been implementing the monetary union by now.
Right.
But
hasn't kicked off.
It hasn't kicked off.
Political federation, very far down.
So they want, but they want. This is the interesting bit.
They want to skip and get to the
They want to
political
skip
federation.
and get to the political federation. At a
Is
point,
that really likely to happen?
No. You know, let me tell you the funny story. In 2004, 2005, Museveni kicked off a road trip around the East African
region,
community,
yes.
saying he wanted to basically fast track. He's the one who came up with the idea of fast tracking the political federation with him as president. Yeah,
retire from Uganda, be the father of the region.
Of the region, yes.
But then the question becomes,
Mzee wa Boma.
if you have not been able to implement the other goals you've set for yourself, why are you rushing? What is the rush to have a political federation and you're not even implementing the other aspects of the integration process? So it's really putting the cart before the horse, if you think about it, because we are rushing to implement something that is going to harm us in the long run. Because politics is, if you look at our political reality in the moment, we do not have that political maturity like the EU for someone like Rwanda and Burundi to surrender their power to Uganda, for example. It can't happen.
No.
It can't happen.
What are these things that have made it almost impossible to achieve these other pillars, like the common market, like the monetary union? I mean, we should have been there if we were to follow the timelines that have been set.
So you have differences. Countries are implementing the common markets, the customs union, but then you have someone, you wake up and say, okay, we are going to ban Ugandan milk. Kenya has banned Ugandan milk. Tanzania has banned Kenyan products. So, there's a lot of protectionism. We want to open up the market, but at the same time, we want to protect the little that we have, not knowing that we are killing the inefficiency. We are basically perpetuating inefficiency. Yes.
So does it not then undermine the integrity of regional blocks? Because the question is really clear. We are looking at a state where each country is trying to achieve economic development.
Yes.
You're trying to get through all the tenets for governance and leadership and all of that.
Yes.
So should you go it alone or should you go by way of regional blocks? Because here you are, it doesn't matter what you do. At some point within this regional integration discussion, it will come up that you're actually seeking the protection of your own local industries, for example, and your own individuals, as well as your sovereignty. So the question has often come up, should we then place this much attention on regional blocks, or should each nation go it alone first, and then when you have reached a certain level of achievement, then we can talk about coming and playing together in the yard?
On a balance of issues, I would actually err on the side of implementing integration. Reason being, colonial borders that were given to us, they basically, so let me give you an example. The people of Busia walk across and trade with each other.
Anyway.
Forget about the border that is there.
Yeah.
The people of Sirare in Tanzania, they walk across and trade with each other. Forget about the borders. If you go to Mutukula on the Rwandese border, it's the same thing with Ugandans. They have been trading all these years. So for them, when you now introduce a border and say you can't go because you have a Ugandan identity and not a Kenyan one, it becomes a bit difficult for them to operate. Now, for me, we have teething problems. We have serious problems, yes. But we would rather start implementing integration at that point and we solve them as we go on than remaining at national level and saying we want to implement things at national level. Yes. There's much more benefit to make mistakes as a regional bloc than making mistakes as a national entity.
But then sadly, there's already identity.
Yes.
Even if the boundaries were created somewhere in Germany, there's identity. There's how we identify we are Kenyans. When you cross over into Tanzania, like you say, they look at you, you are Kenyan, you mmekuja, right? Ugandans have come in, or Rwandese or the DRC. How do we get over that? If we talk about, being one large country, there'll still be a leader who says, I think I want to be the kingpin of my region.
Yes.
And that region happens to be an entire country called Tanzania.
And that is the mistake that we have made with integration in the East African community. We have not created an East African identity. Yeah. If you look at the initial integration that collapsed in 1977, we had so students you would qualify for your national exams, you go study in Makerere.
Yep.
Someone qualifies for international exams, they go study in Dar es Salaam. So that helps. It helps that identity. But this whole idea that we then atrophied and said Kenya is on their own, Uganda is on their own, Tanzania is on their own, you don't have that citizenry that is alive to the East African dream.
Sure, I get it. But I get it, Edgar.
Yes.
But this is it. Even if we are trying to mimic look at other regional blocs around the world,
yes.
NATO, the EU,
Yes.
whatever, you would be hard pressed to find a nation that has not achieved a certain level of development before they are part of the Commission or the Alliance, right?
Yes.
Even when we had the huge problems that we saw with Turkey and Greece,
Yes.
what did they do? They said, no, guys, you need to sort this thing out.
Yes.
Otherwise, you cannot be part of this group.
Yes.
So everybody came with a certain level already
Yes.
having been achieved.
Yes. And that is the mistake that we did. Like I told you, the East African Community Treaty talks about market-led integration. Now, let's talk about the market-led integration for a while. Who is the market? The invisible hand of the market, as economists will tell you.
Yeah.
But this invisible hand, what is the ultimate objective of the market? To make profit.
Profit.
So you're being led by a process that puts profit at the expense of everything else. What about social integration? What about political integration, for example? So we are rushing to political integration, but we don't even have social integration of the citizenry.
Right.
That is going to be a problem at a very fundamental level. Yes.
So if you are to speak like to the people of the DRC, those that are feeling, we've been thrown into this thing. These guys are going to come take our minerals
and finish.
And they'll sell us eggs,
milk,
kiberiti, chumbi, everything. What would you tell them? How would you?
I would tell them not to despair at the possibility of joining the East African community. There are risks, but if they handle their policy nuances well, they'll be able to overcome these risks and be able to grow with the region. Yes, that's what I can say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Edgar, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Edgar Odari.
Yeah, I know. Let it go.
You know, you get it all the time. What? When people say Edgar Edgar Odari is the Executive Director of Econews Africa. He's been with us this morning talking about the impact of DRC joining the East African community, and thank you very much for that. Let's conclude the month with the proverb. It says, a diamond's father is coal, yet it regards itself as upper class. You are black, you are East African, but because you're Kenyan, you think, I'm not like that.
Interesting. It's a very interesting proverb. Okay.
Have a lovely day, folks. Join us again tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. We'll be talking about BBI after this particular judgment that's coming out of the Supreme Court this morning. We will be having a lot of conversations around it, trying to understand the impact of that. Now until 11 o'clock, some music, and then Sugar and Spice will come from 11 to 2 with great entertainment. Have a lovely day. It's now 10 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newsroom Dennis Assetto. The verdict on the BBI appeal case filed in the Supreme Court is currently